Streaming. And we're away. It is 2 p.m. Welcome to the Sunday service. All is well in our world. I hope you're all chilled out and relaxed and waiting for everything to occur. The stream will eventually catch up with me, of course, and we'll be here. It takes a minute for the whole lot to go. But we are live here on a wet and rainy Sunday afternoon here in Ireland. Hopefully it's not wet and raining where you are. I have to say straight off the mark, thank you to William Hope, who has donated money by Super Chat before we even started. You're so kind, William Hope. Thank you very much. It's coming in by Super Chat. You can, of course, do the same thing through Super Chat. You can do it through PayPal or Patreon or any of those kind of things. They're all linked down below if you want to do it that way. I've also linked a couple of things. Teespring is down there as well, so you can buy a t-shirt or a hoodie if you want to root through that. I don't know if that you're interested. I get a little cut out of that as well, but you get a t-shirt out of it. And also, if you're going to go to Amazon and buy anything from Amazon, you don't have to buy anything from my shop. But if you use the link down below to get there, I still get a cut no matter what you buy. Even if you buy, I don't know, a chainsaw or something that's not in my shop, it makes a difference as long as you use the link to get there. So I'm trying to campaign to get you to use anybody's affiliate link to get into Amazon because it works every time. Currently my wife is cooking something, so that's what all the noise is in the background. So let's go through who's here already. Raymond Grace is here. Hi Bob, happy near midsummer day. That was yesterday. What's the high mileage big cars would you recommend buying and their dependability? Bigger engines are always more dependable. If the climate action plan goes ahead in 10 years time, you won't be allowed to have an engine in your car, let alone have an ICE engine. But anyway, we'll come back to that. I'm going to talk about the Journal's article as well today. There's a reporter in the Journal, a journalist who did up an article, a very favourable article towards it, but got a lot of the facts wrong and some of the detail wrong. Afternoon, Zdenko's here. William Hope is here and has donated money. Thank you very much, William Hope. You're so kind. Daniel Flynn, 33 and a third, is here as well. Niall Burke. It's going well, Niall. Thanks very much. Paul Collins is here as well. Good afternoon to you, sir. Dandrew Daly. Donald Shanaghy. Hi, Bob. Looking forward to your chat today. Thanks very much. Rusty Blunt is here as well. I like that. Rusty Blunt. That's a good name, isn't it? Daniel Flynn. Just ordered a new Skoda Scala in style trim. How do you think it will compare to the Golf or Focus in terms of future values? They'll all depreciate by percentages. If you bought by PCP, that's the car company taking the chances and guaranteeing the future minimum value of that car. So that's the car company's thing. But if you're ordering yourself, then it's a little bit trickier as to we don't know what the clarity is behind a lot of the moves the government are making because they're morons. Basically, you've elected the wrong people. But that's okay. Because those wrong people can be advised to do the right thing, but I don't think they've got your interests in mind, particularly motorists, where they make a lot of money from us. I was out running this morning because I was wondering why I'm wearing all the ASICS gear and I'm standing here freezing. If you were following along on Instagram this morning, you would have seen me out on a trot talking about electric cars briefly. You can also look at stories here on YouTube. I do a few. There is an Instagram version here on YouTube called Stories. I don't think it's as interactive. I think I actually get a lot more viewers on stories on YouTube, but I don't think people can comment, and it doesn't seem to notify me or anything on my phone. It's not the same as it is on Instagram anyway. Let me come back to that. Daniel Flynn asked about the Skoda Scala. You'll be doing fine. They'll be the same. Look, it goes down by percentages. So if you pay 30 grand for a car and it loses 15% or 20% in its first year, it's 15% or 20% of its future value. So it's you take off that 20% off the purchase price of the car, and then it loses 10% per year after that, and it's a percentage thing. So the more you pay for a car, the more you lose in the first year. You buy a 100 grand car, it's worth 50 grand the second year. If you buy a 20 grand car, it's worth 15 grand the next year. That's how it works, basically. I know that sounds that's in a very general sense, right? Eric Watford, the name that pops up on every single video on YouTube, which I absolutely adore. Thank you very much for all your support, Eric Rochford. He also supports by PayPal and does it quite regularly. He's just dropped in. Afternoon. The real Vincent HD. My God, Vincent, you're in high definition. That must be very hard to do, is it? To continuously walk around all day in high definition. What are you having for dinner, Bob? I have no idea. My wife is cooking today. Sometimes a lot of the time I cook and a lot of times she cooks. We take it in turns, but we actually cook all of our food here in the house, so we don't really eat out for anything. The only time I actually eat outside in restaurants is when I'm on an international trip and I have no access to my own kitchen. And the big problem with that is our cooking here is so good, it's often, if we do eat out, it's usually worse than we make at home. So I have no idea what's for dinner though. I can ask her. I suppose she'll answer if she remembers. But it could be anything. Chickpea curry probably. Yeah, she's throwing her hands up. She doesn't know. Whatever's in the fridge. Eric Rochelle, great effort on the videos each day. Enjoy them. Thank you very much. A video a day has gone out for the last 14 days. I can't remember. But every day I put a video out. Even today. This is the video of today. Tomorrow there will be another video out that I haven't edited yet, which I will edit tonight. I'll put one out tomorrow morning. And then next week there is a phenomenal special event coming up, probably on the Tuesday, maybe, if I can do it that fast. It might be Wednesday for the videos out, but it'll be a very, very special car, and I'll be one of the very few in the country to make a video of it. So that will go out next week, and I'm collecting it tomorrow. I won't spoil it. Go over to my Instagram if you want to see what the car is going to be. I don't want to spoil the fun. It is a phenomenal machine, probably the last of its breed as well. But yes, the videos have been going every day. We've got 3,000 new subscribers in the last... More than 3,000 new subscribers in the last few days. If it continues to go like this, we'll pass 40,000 subscribers by the end of the month, I'd say. Something like that. It'll fly along. That'll be fantastic. Now, that carries a lot of weight with it. Of course, bigger audience, and a lot more people are paying attention, including the car companies who are now crapping themselves because they put out videos all the time. They don't know what's going on. So it's good fun that way. But I don't think I'll be able to keep up the video a day thing forever. There just isn't enough cars. I nearly have the entire fleet of cars reviewed already. I'm still waiting on a few to pass it off, but I'll be doing Teslas and things later on in the year. Which reminds me, I put up a video the other day of the new Seat electric car, and I put in the title of it, I said, is this the Model 3 killer, and a question mark after it. And the amount of Teslarati people who come on to go, it's not a Model 3 killer, I think you'll find that it's absolutely nothing at all to do with a Model 3. It's so much fun. It's so easily rattled, aren't they, Tesla people? Sorry for saying Tesla people here right now, but you're very easily rattled whenever anyone mentions Tesla. It's like, oh my god, Tesla's the best thing in the world. Jose9000 says, how's it going, Bob? Joining in from Mallorca by the pool. Have you a cold via the neckerchief? No, that's just the thing to stop the sweat running down my front because I was roasting. And then I'm freezing, so you're sitting still for 2 hours and you start to freeze to that. No, it's just one of those stretchy things you put around your neck to get the sweat off you. Ocean Froggy, never seen that name before. Thought you might have been doing the 500km Cork EV challenge. I was supposed to. I couldn't make it. You could have bought a Model S and floored all the way down the motorway, no stops. I actually have a Zoe. I just had it anyway, and I was going to do that thing this morning, but then I just couldn't make it all work out. And then I couldn't do a Sunday service today as well, and I couldn't put out a video today. When you do a video every day, every time you give up 15 minutes to something or 20 minutes to something, you interfere with that video coming out, and it just means you have to stay at editing later and later and later in the day. So anytime there's a time where you have to do something, it has to have a benefit towards the video. So I wouldn't... 5 hours in a Renault Zoe going up and down to Cork is not going to make for a terribly entertaining video, and there's a Sunday service to consider as well, so I couldn't do the Sunday service live in a car while I'm driving. That wouldn't be right because I couldn't answer questions. Cross 13 is here for the electric car talk course. Cross is our electric expert to some degree. I won't say electric expert, but a very knowledgeable electric user. Knows a lot about the industry as well, part of it. Thomas Clark, well, as said, Thomas might be from Laois or Offaly, as that whole conversation can be summed up in just one single word. Well, which means, well, how are you? Well, I'm well, and where are you going, and what are you doing? Anyway, what's your... Donald Shanaghy says, what's your opinion on a 1988 BMW 325i automatic touring? Beware of that automatic gearbox. It is phenomenal when it's working. When it goes wrong, and it doesn't always go wrong, but when it goes wrong, that thing is just going to break your heart. It's going to be expensive to fix. You will be able to fix yourself, but it's going to take such a gargantuan effort. You will need a pace or a lift or something to get the car up to change the gearbox. But just if it's running smooth, if it's running well, you'll have no problem. Just even change the gearbox oil in it. It'll be fine. But if there's even the smallest little grindy noises or a clicky noise, or it doesn't seem to be smoothly progressing through the gears, just run from that car as fast as you can. But other than that, phenomenal machine, beautiful looking thing. Does well actually in convertible as well, believe it or not, as a car to collect. But a 325i Touring is of course the estate one. is a phenomenal looking machine, and will have many happy years of driving in that, as long as you don't get banned out driving a petrol. It should be fine. Richard Brennan has joined. Happy Sunday. How many people are watching now? Oh my God, a lot of people watching now. Okay, so click the like button, everybody. Just so YouTube is aware that this is happening and will send more bodies this direction. See if they're interested. Some people do come expecting mass, so I do the Father Bob thing. If you want, underneath there is some t-shirts you can buy. If you want to go and buy them, they're okay. I made a hoodie the other day. I've actually ordered a hoodie as well for myself to wear, and my wife is delivering coffee to the table. It's great, isn't it? It's deadly. Anyway, the help is brilliant around here. For Hartford gives a thumbs up. Peter Dolan says afternoon. Steve-O C is Steve-O. You're not Steve-O off TV like here. Hi Bob. Is there any truth in the story that electric cars produce more carbon than ICE cars when you include production, mining, and battery manufacturing? Yes, there is a lot of truth in that, Steve-O, for sure. There is an offset. So what we do with cars currently, when you own a car, we measure its current CO2 output. So when you start the engine, you stop the engine, you measure CO2 between the two. Now, the way we should actually be measuring CO2 of vehicles is from the moment the parts start being produced for the vehicle to the recycling end of the vehicle. So by the time the car is recycled at the other end and turned back into, I don't know, jumpers or whatever it is made out of plastic, that's the way we should measure its CO2 output. We don't do that. We measure how we produce individual pieces. Now, some cars, like if you look at the BMW i, all the i range, the i3, the i8, the way they're manufactured is very low CO2. That's how they manufacture stuff. It's gasping. What noises happen in here? So what happens with the i range of stuff is that we have an ability to produce cars using heavily recycled materials already, and then at the end of its life they're all either recyclable or reusable in some way, and that is the way it should be for cars. Now, electric cars don't necessarily in their manufacture produce more CO2. They produce probably more or less the same. By the time you collected the lithium and the aluminium and all the other bits is there to make a battery. By the way, there is a worldwide shortage of lithium. I don't know how we're going to have 1 million lithium cars on the roads of Ireland by 2030, but that's climate action plan. Yay, go Fine Gael, useless. But anyway, so we should now, if we measure how cars produce CO2 on the road, electric cars produce nothing. So as they drive along, they produce, well, relatively nothing. Obviously, everything produces CO2 at some point, but relatively nothing on the road. So if you measure the two together, if you measure cars from birth to death, they produce probably about the same CO2, more or less. Between manufacturing and recycling and everything else, it'd be pretty similar. But during its use, the air is cleaner. It's the other parts of it that matter. Not CO2 is only one small factor of cars. It's the NOx, it's the pollutants that an ICE engine puts out in big numbers, in dosage terms. So when you stand in a city and you're surrounded by 50,000 cars and you're in an enclosed environment where there's walls on both sides of you, then you've got a lot of gases that are being mixed there as you're breathing as you walk along. Now, if you replace all of them with electric cars, you're not getting any of those gases. That's where we need to be. That's a good thing. They're good things. But the way it's been enacted by the government is really catastrophically wrong and will end up going completely against the whole climate action plan. Anyway, we'll come to that as we go along. So stay tuned. Don't wander off. Stay as you are. We will continue to cover all those kind of topics as we go along. But Steve O.C., you're pretty much bang on. Between birth and death, the CO2 emissions of actually manufacturing an electric car and recycling an electric car at the other end, and when you charge it here, if you're using a turf-fired electric power station or you're using a coal-fired one, then you've got the offset's not working for you. It's not doing anything for you. It's basically the same. I enjoyed your take on the Mini that I used to have in 1977, Mr. Bean version that I had to use a hammer to get the starting motor going. Joseph Keegan says, yeah, was that yesterday's? I forget, they're out so fast now. I don't know which one was last. I think the last one was the Mini one, 1988 Mini. Last of its kind, actually. It was just before BMW bought the company out and then turned it on its head and made it profitable. It wasn't profitable for years. That's why BMW bought it for next to nothing. But it was a great little car to drive, great fun. But honestly, if you drive that thing every day, you go insane with the noises and bangs and rattles. And I don't fit. My knees were all over the place. A difficult car to live with. But mobilise the nation nonetheless. I'll have a little coffee here. Anyway, now Callie Morton Curtis. Never had you comment before. It's the first time I've seen your name come up there. What's your thoughts on importing from Japan? I don't mean the sporty drifting cars like the Honda Accord Hybrid, etc. Importing from Japan into Ireland and the UK was a very common thing in the 80s, which is why we end up with a fleet of white cars on the road. But the Japanese didn't really like it. So they kind of curbed. It's harder and harder to get the cars out of Japan. It's the problem. They kind of curbed the exports of the cars. And also the government of Ireland didn't particularly like it because dealers were taking it in cargo ships. I don't know, problem. Japanese have about the same things we have. The NCT, the kind of emission standards, they're all about the same as we have over here. No problem with Japanese cars. And generally speaking, most Japanese engines are more reliable in the long term over its lifespan than European engines. Just, it's always been that way. Our tolerances are much tighter than theirs are, and they tend to rely much more on gasoline engines, particularly Mazda and Toyota would rely much more on gasoline. So that's no problem with that Jap import sort of idea that's been around since the 80s. A lot of dealerships that are around today were built on Japanese imports to begin with, so no problem. Daniel Flynn, did I almost answer your question? Cheers to you, sir. Gia V6, wow, that's a throwback to the past. Bob, you did a review years ago on the Fluence Auto. You don't remember specifically what type of auto box it was by any chance? The old fella's looking at one. The auto box in the Fluence would have come from the Renault-Nissan Alliance. So you're looking at a Aisin gearbox would be the auto box in that for sure. It'd be a Japanese Aisin model. Should be totally reliable. If it's the right one, it could be. Now the Fluence Auto could also be the electric one, which Fluence EV, which I also reviewed in this channel. But as far as I'm aware, Renault-Nissan Alliance used the Aisin gearbox for an auto box. So it would be a 6-speed auto, fairly old and totally reliable. So it should be no problem at all. I think. I might be completely wrong on that. Cross says no, manufacturing CO2 emissions for average EVs are 10 to 15% above equivalent size ICE vehicle. A difference usually made up of the first year or so of driving. I'd have to wonder about that. Okay, so there's another level of manufacturing you have to go into as well. You have to go into like Mini plant, where I talk to the engineers in Mini who are in charge of making electric cars and electric minis that are forthcoming next year. The problem that they have is that the electric cars are going to be inserted into the same manufacturing lines as ordinary cars. So ICE engines and electric cars will be made at the same time on the same line. Now the big difference is, if you're an engineer or you're someone working in a factory and your job is to fit exhausts, say, which there is one, or your job is to fit, I don't know, standard headlights in a car, you're out of work while that electric car passes through. So while you have one car passing through, everyone's standing around doing nothing, just because no exhaust or anything on it. So you can look at the saving that way. You could look at it, you could offset it in many other directions as well. But manufacturing in a plant, if you're exclusively manufacturing electric cars, is a very different prospect than someone like Mini or Fiat or Ford or someone who's putting electric cars amongst the petrol and diesel equivalent. So it's hard to work it out. But I would still suggest that electric cars and ICE engine cars from birth to death put out about the same CO2 until we get to the point where the electricity coming into the house is completely renewable. Then it's a different story. Right now, electricity is not currently 100% renewable. It is like 40%, somewhere around there, depending on the weather. Sanu SC says, hi Bob, what do you think of the new Citroen A5 Aircross? New Citroen C5 Aircross, that one? Not bad joke, looks well, but I think it's a bit soft for driving every day. It just seems very, very soft, and the seats have no support, they're just flat. In that Citroen way, where it's like designed for someone who's 15 times my size. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just seems like for a French car, they should be designed for slimmer people or something. Or put some side support in it. French cars don't have that. Zoe's the same. You fall out of the seat turning right and turning left and things, don't you? It's a nice car. There is better out there for sure. There's probably not that much more reasonably priced. Citroen have a reasonably priced range, but there's definitely better cars out there to drive. I can't think of one off the top of my head. It'll come back to me. My God, there are so many people out of dropping in thousands of questions already. I think I might just go and lie down in the corner and cry for a few minutes. Anyway, this is really good. Click the like button. Thanks very much. The little like thing that's there, that thing's only got 38. There's 101 of you watching this very moment. There's 38 likes. So click the bloody like button, right? Or I'll come around and click it for you in your house. Music is Life is another regular commenter. Thank you very much. Hi from Down Under is an Australian. Love your Sunday shoe, but you're competing with the French Grand Prix today. I'm watching you at the same time. So you can watch it too. So you can turn on the French Grand Prix and just listen to this. I run this as a radio show. I've always run it as a sort of a radio show. And so you can see me, which is fine. But actually I make it so there's no silences. And so you just fill in the blanks the whole time like you would in a radio show. But no radio DJ in Ireland does 2 hours of straight talking. And I know a good few radio DJs. And a good few wannabe radio DJs who want to be motoring drivers as a part-time job. Not part-time job, what am I saying? It's a bleeding hobby. A hobby. Make a hobby out of my career. Cross continues. And that EV manufacturing emissions are higher is not universally true. The i3's production emissions independently audited, including supply chain, is 25% below an equivalent size ICE BMW. That would be true because I remember when I went to the BMW launch, we went to see the IE plant. And it was really interesting because they make the dashboards made out of recycled donkey jackets. There's fleece jackets in the seats, and the carbon fiber tub is. It's just this really, really cleverly done. They've seriously thought about how the car is made from start to recycling point, and that's the only way forward for the entire car industry, not just electric cars. Any part of the car industry is going forward has to really consider how we get rid of a car, because currently the climate action plan that the government has put in place says that they want to have 1 million cars, replace 1 million cars in Ireland with all electric cars, and do that in 10 years. We sell 75,000 cars a year. How in the name of God are we going to replace everything by 2030? But anyway, even if you do, what happens to all the cars we're driving now? Where did they go? Do we recycle them? Do we put them in storage? You're going to just get rid of all the classic cars? Are they all gone? No more collections? No more collector's items? None of that stuff. Nothing can be driven. That's what they're talking about. And it's absolute balls, as far as I can see. I think it's all wind and nothing will come of it. But they still have the plan out there, and we still need to be keeping an eye on what they're doing, because we're paying them to make this plan, and it's all lies. And they're putting it out through the Journal as well, which that article was done this morning, very carefully done this morning. Loads of comments on my Instagram, not only Instagram but Twitter. I can't keep up with everybody's comment. I'm really sorry. I know I've missed direct messages and things at me. I'm really sorry, but I'm trying to keep up with everything. There's so many comments going all the time. It's impossible. Neil O'Toole is here. Thanks, Neil. Mick Lawler, you can review my car if you're stuck, Bob. Thanks, Mick. Mick Lawler drove by me while I was filming the Mini on the Curragh and never stopped saying hello. So that's your fault, Mick, not mine, right? I'm currently answering questions from 207. This is going to be a long Sunday service, so stay tuned. It's always good. If you want to support the channel, I really would appreciate it. It really is. I don't get sponsored by car companies. Car companies do not pay a penny and are not allowed to pay any money to this channel for review of their product. I don't get, if I review something like that dash cam, you cannot send money or anything else or freebies along with it. You just provide the product for free, and then I review the product. You're not allowed to give me any stipulations. There's no riders or anything else on any of the reviews. So other reviews come straight from me, but that means that I close off the ability to sell advertising on the channel by car companies or by anyone else, unlike newspapers or magazines or websites that can sell advertising space around the articles. So if you can support the channel in some way, there are a list of links down below, including PayPal and Patreon, which are the two straight up cash ones. You can do PayPal any amount you want, or Patreon you can support by doing a little drip feed once a month if you want £2 a month or something, or 10, whatever it is you want to do. And then the other two links are to Teespring, which is a place where you can buy some t-shirts. You want to buy some merch, as they call it here on YouTube. Or you can go to the Amazon affiliate link and click that and go in and buy something on Amazon. Buy anything on Amazon after you click that link, and I get a little tiny fraction of money out of it. Brilliant. Anyway, Joseph Keegan says, I've done a Tesla. They were too big and too expensive. All electric cars have a single drivetrain. The drivetrain is the electric engine is connected directly to the drive shaft. So there's very little actually go wrong in an electric car in that respect. But yes, Teslas are very expensive. They are very expensive. But in fairness, as a system, Tesla have it nailed. And by that I mean they are totally in control of their superchargers. They're totally in control of their own pricing structure. They can position them wherever they want. They can charge you or charge your family or whatever it is as much as they like for either updates or not updates in your car. They make their own batteries. They make their own cars. So as a system, as a network of things, Tesla have actually done the most of the work. And that's because that's all they've done. They started up like that and continue that way. Whereas now the problem is, if you're in Mayo and your Tesla broke for whatever reason, well, you know, it's harder to get a little bit of support because there's no dealers around the place. You just kind of push the car to or put it in the back of an AA truck and go to the nearest dealer and get it all sorted for you. The only dealer in Ireland is in Dublin and is not a repair shop. There is a training facility in it, and there is some repairs that they carry out there, but a lot of repairs can't be done in Dublin. So there is an element at the other end of the car is the problem. Robert Van Sant says, how's things, Bob? What do you make of the old government green panic and who's going to pay for it? You're going to pay. You 100%. They are going to tax you to death for electric cars. I guarantee it. There is a golden goose sitting right here in the fact that you can raise the price of electricity across the country. So even if you don't own an electric car, you're going to pay the same rate as someone who does own an electric car when they begin to tax you for it. It'll be like water. You know, people who use over a certain level will start getting taxed at a higher rate or have to start paying some sort of a water tax or other. That's how they're going to catch you, because there's no way that the exchequer, which now it's a great word, exchequer, but what that literally means is a pile of publicly employed people who sit around a room all day and are completely unable to be fired or reprimanded or being sent out, and they sit there and go, this is the way we have to do things. Now, they cannot suddenly not get all that tax money in from petrol, from diesel, from repairs, from... There's just so many things that a standard car puts into the coffers. They can't just stop getting that and go, well, that's great for the environment. Sure, yeah, who cares? We don't need to worry about it. They will. They'll get it another way. There has to be an indirect tax. There has to be another kind of a tax somewhere in the back. Oh, you're using so much electricity to offset the carbon things. We're going to have to hit you with a carbon tax now. That's what will happen. And so you're going to be nailed. You're the one going to pay for all this green panic that's out there right now. There is a good reason to panic, but the automotive industry is probably the one that's furthest down the list among the people who need to be hit the hardest. The ones that need to be hit the hardest are the agricultural industry, not really still a hot potato in this country because farmers vote. But you need to look at the shipping industry and the airline industry. They're the ones that are putting out the biggest amount of volume of CO2. Just the way it is. The term if you're looking thing around your neck is buff. Forget the answer. That's right, it is a buff thing, yeah. That thing. I don't even know if it's the right brand name, but that's what it is. It's a thing around your neck. It stops the sweat going from here to there. That's all. Gets it off your neck. Keeps you warm then when you cool down after a run. I did 6 kilometres, 7 kilometres, 6 something kilometres of a run this morning in the rain, and it was delicious. I guarantee if you ever want to feel better about your lot, get some exercise. Whether that's go out walking, briskly walking to get your heart rate up, or you go running, or you want to go cycling, or whatever it is, get out and do some exercise. Get off the couch and do some exercise. Do it every day if you can. Colin Whelan has landed, and Barry Walsh is here as well. Any update on that lad from weeks ago that had his car money stolen? No, he's never gotten in touch with me since, so I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to his car either, whether it ever came back. I did check with a number of people around the edge. Nobody seems to have a problem with that company, so I'm none the wiser, so to speak. Maminsk is here. Hello, Bob. There is a Ford dealership in Ohio that sells a base Mustang GT with your choice of 4 different superchargers at 700 to 850 brake horsepower. Do you think the Mustang's powertrain can reliably handle that? No. 700 to 850 horsepower through a rear wheel drive is just sit there and burn tires off. That's really it. Now, the drivetrain itself could put up with that a number of times, but there will come a point where the stress of turning wheels so hard and putting all that pressure down on it will eventually rock the axle or break a track rod or something physical underneath the car. They just can't. Those tolerances are gigantic to be putting on top of a car. So it'll do it for the first year, maybe 2 years, but eventually it'll throw something out. along the way. Now, Ford do make a very solid truck gearbox system. They've been using it for quite some time. They were using it recently in the auto Mustang here in Ireland, where you have like a 7-speed DSG system underneath, direct shift system, and then they've coupled a Ford truck engine or a truck gearbox on top of that as well, giving it 10 gears. So that would be fairly reliable. But again, longevity, don't know. 10 years from now, is it going to tear its wheels off? Probably. Nadir Hassan says, to be honest, the Tesla Model 3 is disappointing. The build quality is not on par with any of its car in its class at this price point. No long until the big manufacturers who were building cars for decades. But that's generally my point in this as well, is that Tesla's got a good head start on the electric car industry, but eventually big car companies like Audi or Mercedes or someone comes along and goes, this is actually what electric cars should do. But I'm still failing to see that materialize. Audi put out the Audi e-tron recently, but the range is too short. 300 kilometers, 350 kilometers from an Audi? Really? I can get that from a Zoe outside for next to nothing. Zoes are fairly cheap in comparison, you know. And the same from the Nissan Leaf, you know. If you want to get into the electric car and you're not a brand aware person and you want to do 300 kilometers, Zoe or a Leaf, or you could probably get away with it in a e-Golf. But none of them have batteries, so nobody's got supply anyway. Ken O'Mahony. Hi Bob, I have a 2017 Astra diesel and will be upgrading to an EV next year, with the proposed scrappage scheme coming next year. Should sell it now, buy a banger. If there's a scrappage scheme next year, there will be unholy war, because we don't need another scrappage scheme to do this. We do not need another scrappage scheme. If anyone's there from the car industry right now, you are, I guarantee you, shooting yourself in the foot. There will be closures of dealerships if we have another scrappage scheme, because there's not enough of a fleet. There isn't enough of cars out there. Scrappage schemes are very particular. The cars that are coming in off a government-backed scrappage scheme must be scrapped. The environmental impact of scrapping cars is catastrophic compared to just keeping the car on the road and letting the car filter its way through the system. In other words, just trading it in, getting a value, getting a new car, and so on. That car stays on the road for a long time. A scrappage scheme will be suicide for the majority of dealers out there. And if any dealer thinks I'm messing with me, feel free to phone me up and ask me why. I guarantee you're going to lose money on a scrappage scheme. I would, if you want to go from electric car or diesel car to electric car from 2017 to a 2019, I would do it now before WLTP takes place. WLTP has already driven the price of cars up, but this October there will be a sudden jump in the price of cars, because everything was deferred last year until October this year. So WLTP is going to, it's already done it, but it's going to do it more damage this October. So if you're going to buy now, just buy 192. You're just heading into that period now into 192, so you're nearly there. So hang on till next month, buy it then. Don't worry about scrappage schemes or anything else. I don't think that scrappage scheme is going to take place. Look, at the market is so low at the moment. 75,000 cars sold generally. You're like madness. You're going to try to buy 10,000 cars for a year. For what? Scrappage scheme is going to kill you, boys. Sorry, rant over there. Snazbot, if you have the luxury of hiring help to make your videos, what would they be? Camera operator, sound engineer, editor? Editor would be the thing. I don't really need a lot of help filming cars, unless you fancy standing on the side of the road in the rain with a camera while I drive by you. That would be the main thing. But if I could unsaddle the editing, I think that would make quite a difference. Because an editor who is just editing could spend more time and do more fancy graphics or put things on the side of the screen. That's the time-consuming part, is sitting here at 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, uploading a video to go out at 10:30 the next morning. What would be really handy, if someone was able to edit and film, it's great. If you could do both and take that completely, so I could get on with creating, that's a whole different ballgame. But that would have to be like factory style. Even places like Fully Charged can't keep up with that sort of thing. I mean, they haven't put out I was with Johnny Smith in Paris for the automated driving thing, and I put out a video that 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they don't still have their video out. So it's an awful lot to be done. But an editor will be the main primary focus, and possibly someone to do filming, camera work. Sound engineer, nah, not really. We can cope with ropey sound or kind of dodgy sound here and there, but sound engineer would add a layer of things, but unnecessary expense. Problem with someone help me filming is everything slows down. The minute you have a camera person there, everything grinds to a halt because everybody has to be on point straight away. But cameraman, editor would be really good, but particularly an editor. Tony Power, haha, feck off, Bob. In Ireland, roasting. Are you on holidays summer now? I'm just sorry, I was after a run. That's why I'm roasting right now. I'm just boiling because I'm after being out running for 7Ks. Jim Dunn, hi all, from Jim the bus driver. He's here. We'll be offloading my VRS next year to make way for the Tesla Model 3 performance. Am I crazy? No, you're not. If you're going electric cars, you might as well go that kind of direction. You're getting the modern car as well. Now remember, Model 3 has been around for... When did we see it first? What was it, 3 years ago we seen it first? In 2 years it's been on sale in the US, and it's now starting to be delivered in the UK and Ireland. So you're looking at a 3-year-old car you're replacing your probably 3-year-old car with, you know what I mean? But you're going the right direction. You're on the right side of technology. You're moving into a long-range electric car at quite an expense, but you're moving into a long-range electric car. So that's probably the best way to be. Nadir says, I've got a BMW 330e and went to look at the Model 3 to replace my 330e. No, even if they pay me money to do so, my BMW is just better built, and not long until BMW have full electric version of all the fleet. Yeah and no. There is a certain element of BMW replacing all their fleet with electric cars eventually. I do agree that BMW is definitely better built than a Model 3, but it's for a different purpose. The E model is a PHEV, a hybrid version essentially with a plug on it. So the Model 3 now is fairly well improved in its production. It does hold together pretty well. I'll hopefully, if we get one, have test of a Model 3 for the end of the year. But it's down to their supply. That's the big problem. That's what all happens. Joseph Keegan says she's given out. Who's given out? Derek Norris. Good afternoon, Bob. Come on, Derek is here. Jose 9000, will hydrogen overtake electrics with the investment being made in Japan? Toyota at the moment thought to seen hydrogen fuel station blow up last week somewhere in the time. No, there was no hydrogen. The hydrogen fuel station blew up last week. They would have obliterated the entire universe. No. I do see a future for hydrogen because now there's a lot of interested parties. Now Toyota's paying attention. Now Audi's paying attention. Now Nissan is thinking about it as well. And Nissan could be out of business very soon if the Renault-Nissan alliance completely breaks down, as it looks like it's doing at the moment. But hydrogen, I always wished hydrogen would have a future, because hydrogen is a direct replacement for what we use right now, how we use cars. Go to a fuel station, put fuel in and drive off. And that's what we do right now. Electric cars are just slower, so it takes longer for that to happen. It's the same principle. You put fuel in, you go on, but it just takes longer. There's a lifestyle change to go with it. But if you could do hydrogen, and hydrogen's been around, don't get me wrong, hydrogen's been on the go now for a decade or more. We've been seeing hydrogen buses, we've been seeing hydrogen tests and things going on, but there's just a lot of infrastructure to put into place for hydrogen and no infrastructure really to put in place for electricity. So where do you put the fuel? Where do you, a hydrogen fueling station has to be a petrol station or whatever. But then what are we going to do with all these petrol stations when there's no petrol to sell, because we are banning ICE engine cars? So, but I don't think that climate action plan is going to go ahead. There won't be the same government in 10 years as there is now. Ocean Froggy says Hindenburg. No, what's Hindenburg? That was a gas fire of a blimp many years ago now. Wonder whatever. Do you know that blimp, that Hindenburg actually went on, that came over to America from Germany. How long did that take? I always think back to that blimp crossing the Atlantic. That must have taken months. Anyway, Barry Watts says, why did our government just buy 230 diesel buses on the same day as the environmental talks? That wasn't the government, that was Dublin Bus, that is run as an industry that has to make profit. The problem is Irish Rail and Dublin Bus and nationwide buses are run as businesses. Instead of run as the benefit for the consumers or the benefit of the population of the country, it is run as a profit-making business, so it must make money. And the guys in Dublin Bus, who are clever enough to sit down as accountants and go, hang on a second, there's no electric buses that's going to be able to replace this just that fast, and there's no hydrogen buses, and there's no... it's easier just to buy diesel buses, right? We get a massive discount to buy a pile of diesel buses. And that's exactly what it did. Phone up a company that makes a pile of diesel buses and go, if we order 200 buses, how much of a discount are you going to get? Because it's run as a business. Instead of run as a thing that shines a light and say, this is what we need to do to change in the environment. We need to have hydrogen, and we need to have LPG or electric or whatever it is buses. Look at the guys who are making this climate action plan happen. Look at what they drive around in. Mercedes and Audis and whatever other car. You man from down in whatever his name is, the guy with the peaked cap who can't string a sentence together logically, he drives a Skoda. Like these guys aren't driving electric cars. You're telling me we're going to all have to drive electric cars, all have to buy a brand new electric car over the next 10 years, and yet the people who are creating this climate action plan have done nothing themselves. Anyway, but yes, you're right. That's why it wasn't the government that placed the order, but it was sanctioned by the department, obviously. But Dublin Bus made the decision and pulled the trigger on that one to get 200 new diesel buses for Dublin, not electric buses. Anyway, BMW has the i4 on the way, according to Cross, for the next year. But as far as I know, BMW battery supply is that plant from Hungary with a maximum capacity of 10% of Tesla's current 21700 cell supply for Model 3. That's gas, isn't it? Yeah, the big problem with electric cars, all electric cars, this includes Toyota, by the way. It includes everybody. Anyone who's using lithium-ion batteries in their cars, anyone who's using any battery in their car, is supply. Now, Volkswagen are not helping at the moment. I read in the Financial Times recently that Volkswagen have been buying shares in any car, in any company that's making batteries out there at the moment, and have got themselves onto the board of a lot of these companies. So Volkswagen are just basically buying up the supply of batteries out there using their money. That's how they operate, which then precludes anyone else from buying the batteries because Volkswagen controls everything. We'll see how that turns out though. John McAlinden, I'm answering questions from 2:12 p.m. Sorry, I'm about half an hour behind your real time. It is possible that your brand new EV will be worth exactly nothing in 8 years' time. Yes, it is. Absolutely nothing. Because we don't know is the real answer. We don't know what happens when a whole market changes over to electric cars. We also don't know what's coming in 8 years' time. If you look back 10 years ago, our range was about 100 kilometers. So like Generation 1, Nissan Leaf or Renault Fluence EV, before the Zoe's time, their range was between 100 and 150 kilometers. But in real world, on a motorway, I can remember getting a Nissan Leaf and driving it home. I also remember getting the Renault Fluence EV and driving that home. But I didn't make it home. I got from Sandyford in Dublin to Junction 17 Mayfield here along the N7, and I had to recharge there because I couldn't make it home. Now 10 years later we're going 500 kilometers, something like that for something like a Model 3 or Model S. The Holy Grail is looking to be 600. Now what does that mean for those Nissan Leafs, those Generation 1s? It means they're worth nothing. They've lost a lot of their battery capacity. They lose 5 to 15% year on year every year. So you've got batteries out there that are only 80% of their capacity when it started off. 80% of 100 is 80. That's okay. So now instead of being able to do 100 kilometers, you can only do 80 kilometers, maybe 70 kilometers on a cold day. So these cars can be worth nothing. So who knows? The current crop of electric cars in 10 years' time, when hydrogen fuel cells are the latest thing, or we're being powered by warp drives in 10 years' time, God only knows what those cars are going to be worth. We've no clue. It's all moving very, very fast. You can make good guesses. Like it'll still, on PCP, it'll still go down the same value. On certain percentages, it'll go down the same value. So they're like guesses, but it is possible that it's worth nothing, yeah. Cross says second-hand EV prices have been going up. Supply is limited. That's why they've been going up, because supply is limited. Many are sold as new. If you bought a 3-year-old Leaf 2 years ago, you could sell it now for a few thousand more than you paid. That's just supply and demand. As demand is met, supply will be met, and then you'll find that the price of old second-hand EVs will fall through the floor because the range won't be the same as the modern ranged ones. Music is Life says, don't forget, if we all suddenly start driving electric cars, that'll put a lot of pressure on electricity production, most of them coal-powered stations. If everyone in Ireland tomorrow was driving an electric car and all charged at the same time, the power station was shut down. There is not enough power generated in Ireland to cover that much electricity going out. That won't happen, finally, for not a hope of that going. Right now, the EVs are at their best 7% of the market total. There's only a couple of thousand on the road. In fairness, there's only a handful of cars that are out there. We're the ideal situation for electric cars, an island that you could drive anywhere, 300 kilometre range, enough to kind of get pretty much anywhere in Ireland, within reason. But the power stations right now that are coal-fired, turf-fired, we could do with a nuclear power station. I know that sounds like a real hot potato to throw out there, but we could. If we had a nuclear power station, we'd actually solve an awful lot of our problems. We import a crap load of electricity from the UK and the general grid outside of the UK as well. So we still can't produce, probably, like on a cold, wet, non-windy day, we don't produce half enough electricity. Most of it comes from non-renewable resources. Brian Morrissey has landed. Come on, Brian. Neil Ryan, watching from the Al-Assad US base in Iraq. Loving the channel. Thank you very much, Neil. Very good. Stay safe out there. Don't do anything stupid. Keep your head down. Put your helmet on, flak jackets and the usual stuff, and just don't shoot anybody. It's the best way to do it. If you don't shoot at them, they might not shoot back. Are you in the US Army? Anyway. Good to have you aboard. Nice to have you along. If anybody wants to... My God, there's so many of you watching now. This is probably the most amount of people watching at once. If anybody wants to support the channel, there is a list of links down below. I don't get any money from car companies or anything else, and I get to say whatever I like, which is supported by you, of which some car companies write me strongly worded letters to ask me to stop saying whatever I like, which is fun. That's the fun part, though. That's all part of it. If I'm not upsetting somebody somewhere, I'm probably not doing my job as a journalist. It's usually the way out. Right, there we are. Cross says, and there were 2 incidents with H2 fuel stations the last few weeks. One was a fuel station blown up in Norway. All the H2 stations in Norway are now closed for safety review. So there was a hydrogen fuel station that blew up. Yeah, I didn't read about that, mind you, but it must be there. I did read about the H2 fuel tanker blowing up in California. I did read that. Remember, you are still dealing with a very flammable fuel. But now, that's not to say that diesel and petrol aren't flammable fuels. They are as well. Petrol stations have blown up in the past. So it can happen, for sure. Let's hope it doesn't happen while you're driving your car. Whoop, jump forward there in a massive fashion. 1 million questions have just gone shooting by. I'm coming up. I'm still coming up. I'm so far behind. It's nearly a joke now at this stage. I'm back at 2:09. Yeah, we're alright. We're catching up now. Nearly there. Sometimes, every once in a while, YouTube's in its infinite wisdom has a comment system when I scroll to the bottom, and then suddenly it just loads all the rest of the comments, and so it shoots forward and I just skip over the 1 million comments to pass by. Anyway, we're back at Neil Ryan, where he was from the US Al-Assad US base in Iraq, who was watching there. Good to have you on. And Richard Major says, there could never be enough charge of electric cars. Sad thought, but just reality. That's not true. Religiously watching videos just the first time to comment. Good man, Richard, I'm glad to have you aboard, but that's not true. There is always going to be enough electric chargers because you put one in your house. That's the whole point of electric chargers, to charge at home. If you have enough range, so the holy grail for me, and I said this in the Audi e-tron video, and everybody seems to agree, is 600 kilometers. So if you could get 600 kilometers at an affordable 5-door hatchback, I'm not talking about 600 kilometers at a €120,000 car now. I'm talking about 600 kilometers from a €30,000 car. Then you could drive to and from work. If your average commute is 60 kilometers a day, think about the mathematics behind that. 30 kilometers there, 30 kilometers home, and you're starting to get into a realm where you're charging once a week. Which is the equivalent of what you're doing with petrol and diesel. You're putting once a week, you're filling the tank. But you're going to do that at home on your own electric night rate meter or whatever it is. So it starts to make economic sense at that point. Right now we're in this muddledy point of the world where we think we have to charge on the street the whole time. We're always going to be looking for a charge the other end. And right now, at 300 kilometers, that is the way it is. So if I'm going to get that Renault Zoe and I'm going to drive to Finglas this morning, I would have been looking for a charge when I get there. And there's no fast charge on that Zoe. It's only a 22 kilowatt capacity charger, so I can only charge 22 kilowatts max, which means about 2 hours maybe to fill, or 3 hours to fill, something like that. So it's slow enough, like. So there's always that problem. But when we get to 600 kilometers, that's not going to be so much of a problem. Barry Walsh says, Bob, do you think all this EV green talk from the government is just waffle and smokescreen to bury bad news? Ireland is too small to matter. No, every country matters though, Barry. If every country did what we're trying to do here, but we're doing it blindly, we're doing it stupidly, with a hammer, when what it requires is a feather to start moving people along, to start tickling in the right area. We're using a hammer to hit people over the head with. We're saying this is the way we want it. We're going to ban everything. It just doesn't make any sense. to start banning ICE engines forever. It's stupid. It's a stupid move. We should focus more on renewable energy production and banning unrecyclable plastics. That's exactly what I want as well. Really, we have to be doing all this at once. Cars are just something I deal with, it's close to my heart, but actually plastics are the bane of my life. Everywhere I look around me, the thing I'm talking to is bloody plastic. Plastics are everywhere. Single-use plastic is an absolute... Oh, it's ferociously bad. Like, go into a home store and more. Have a look around. Look how much single-use plastic is around you. Go into a pound shop. Go into any of these things. This crap we buy for 50 cent or €1, and then we throw it into the bin. Where do you think that goes? Into a landfill. Where does that go? Rots over time till you have a Blade Runner type. Do you ever watch Blade Runner 2049? Where they're dumping all the rubbish onto an area of America? Just dumping it because there's nowhere else to put it now. So it's a whole, people just live in it. I seen it down in Morocco. I seen people with plastics washing up on the beaches and they're building houses out of plastic. No, that's true. The big bottles of water, they take them up, they flatten them out, they put them up as a wall and they live there. That's a window in their house. Think about that. Polluting cows. Cows are, it's the way they're fed as well. That's the stuff that comes out of the back end of cows. Not so bad in Ireland. We do a lot of grass-fed beef here, which is a much cleaner, less intensive way of raising cattle here. Pigs here are treated really badly in general, as is anything other than beef, really. Chickens are treated dreadfully. Good God almighty, poor old chickens. Even the ones that aren't battery bloody hens are treated awful. Compacted into cages and everything else, and it's like they have a little meter to walk around. Are you mad? Like, anyway, pigs and chicken are treated really badly here. Cows, not so much. Cows are worth a lot of money. There's a lot of heritage in cows. We take a lot of pride. We do a lot of export of our steak and things. But when it comes to the rest of the animals, it's pretty bad. But plastics, agriculture in general, and particularly shipping and aircraft are the ones that need to be really looked at when it comes to cleaning the environment. They're our biggest issues. If we could start cutting down on everything, even as a small country, if we could start cutting down on everything, we would benefit our own country first, and then we could be held up as a country who's taken real action steps. Instead of this smoke and mirrors crap on the climate action plan, it doesn't make any sense at all. Half it's codology. Cross says purely in the difference between peak grid demand and the bottom of the demand curve in the early hours. That's not to say that it can't be reinforcement of low voltage grid wouldn't be needed. We'd need to bring, if everyone charges at the same time, we'd have to bring everything online. That would have to go to 100% capacity of the grid. It very rarely is, to be honest with you. The Irish capacity right now, it very rarely reaches 100% of its effort. So we, like when I was a kid, we used to get blackouts all the time, regularly. It happened regularly. Pretty much once a week, the electricity would go down to town for various reasons, like fallen cables or broken this or broken that, or some transformer that doesn't work, whatever it is. But they would go down at some point. So we regularly had blackouts. Now I can't remember. We had a blackout here a year ago during a storm, massive storm here one night, and everything went black for maybe 3/4 of an hour. That was it. That's the last time I remember getting a blackout. Cheesy Toe says, where do you get your trim, bruv? You get me mad thing, Do you learn to speak English in a foreign language or something? I don't know what that means. My trim might be my haircut, which is the master barber, which is Paul McGann, the other half on the garage bit. We have to get together and do another one. But I'm terribly unloyal, so I'll go where I have to queue the least, or it's closer to where I'm filming. When I'm doing the 7 days, a video every day, so shooting and often uploading on the same day, it tends to be a little bit faster. Harry Smith clicked. Good man, Harry Smith, whatever that means. You clicked something. We are going to, I don't know what that is, but I think I'll just stick you now in a timeout. So here we go now. I'm going to put you in a little timeout just to see if it all gets calmed down a little bit. So one of those guys, I'm not going to take any chances now. Has this happened before? No Man's Game says, hi from Banau in Wexford. There's a place called Banau in Wexford. How did I know? First time watching live. Good show. Keep it up. Michael. Thanks, Michael. You're very good. That's very good to have you. Keep it up. And look at all. See, this is where... Here's my problem at the moment when I'm trying to do the comments. See that? That's all the notifications I have about comments today, like in the last 10 minutes. There's not your comments that are on this live show. It's the comments from the videos. It's just gone woof. So many of them. It's good crack though. Keep going. Keep commenting all you like. Connor Nugent says, from the end of 2019, the ID3 will be produced with an entirely carbon-neutral footprint at the facility. That's what VW said about the Zwickau plant. I'm sure they're true. Just like they told you that there's low CO2 was coming out of their diesel engines all this time. That didn't turn out to be a lie at all, did it? Depends on how you measure it. CO2 is not the biggest enemy of the planet, really isn't. We produce it when we breathe out. There's all kinds of CO2s we produce. We produce it from our cooking, we produce it from burning a fire, lighting a fire, and we produce it in multiple ways. To say that something becomes low CO2 or carbon neutral that's relatively easy. So what does carbon neutral mean? So if I put out 100 grams of carbon and I plant 6 trees that can absorb 100 grams of carbon, I am now carbon neutral. It doesn't mean I'm not putting out 100 grams of CO2. It means that I've put in ways that is absorbing the same amount as I'm putting out. That's not the same as zero carbon emissions. That's a different realm. So keep it in your mind that these words that are designed to manipulate you into thinking that it's a good thing doesn't mean anything, really. So it's how you measure it. If I put it, we go back to that same analogy, 100 grams of CO2, I put up enough trees that can absorb 100 grams of CO2, so I'm carbon neutral. End of story. My house is carbon neutral. That's it. That's the way it works. What I want to see is no carbon or an excess. So we put up enough trees and we put up enough plants and we do enough things that we're actually absorbing more carbon than we're putting out. So I put out 100 grams but have enough trees to absorb 150 grams. So I have a little bit of redundancy. That's much better. Or to put out much less CO2 than before. So carbon neutral is, relatively speaking, doesn't matter. Fiat claimed they were carbon neutral 8 years ago. I don't know what happened after that. It all seemed to fall apart. Harry Smith says, I'm in the UK and want me to give up my CLS 320 CDI from my cold dead hands. For an electric car that to bloody pay me the price I paid for the car. You see, this is the same crap. We have the same problem. You are being banned for safety. It's a safety thing. They're going to be safer, better and cleaner for the environment. If you stop driving your car that's old, and we'll see you out to... how long does a car last, right? I have my car 13 years. The amount of CO2 that car has put out in that 13 years has to be tiny in comparison to the use of the car. Like an electric car is only just starting to come along. Now, our next car will probably be electric anyway because our mileage is so low in the house. Our car does about 4,000 kilometers a year. But we like it. So why can't we keep it? But we're not allowed to keep it. They're going to take it off us because we're not allowed to have a petrol or diesel car from now on. That's it. Anyway, I don't really have an answer for you because the government is just pushing this forward so hard. Maybe when the next government comes, maybe when Boris Johnson's elected there, he'll go, I don't care if you never drive an electric car in your entire life. Mick Lauder says, I aim for you the next time. That's Mick Lauder, missed me when he was out driving by me. Steve O.C. said, thanks Bob, maybe we should just plant more trees. Yes, they love carbon dioxide, don't they? Ireland has so few people living here. Maybe we should wait for someone else to jump. Great videos, by the way. Thank you very much. There is yes, trees do absorb carbon. Plants absorb carbon themselves and they generate oxygen coming out of that. The Amazon forest is often be called the lungs of the earth, so it's able to absorb a gigantic amount of CO2. But the Amazon is largely cut down at this stage. So there's so much being cleared on there and we've done nothing at all to stop that. Not a jittery jot have we done to stop that clearance of trees. But what we could do ourselves is plant trees in our own garden. So we could plant trees all over the place, in our own yards and in our own facilities everywhere. And you could get on with doing that today. You don't have to wait. You don't need permission or nothing. Plant a tree. I have 2 trees in my back garden. And I'm quite happy to have them there because I don't know if they're going to do much for CO2, but they're there, which is more than there was before. We've cut down almost all our forestry in this country. There's so little wild forest left in this country. It's amazing. For a country that was completely covered in forest at one point, we have next to nothing left. And yet there's only 4.5 million people living here. There's 68 million people living in the UK. Have you ever driven in the UK? Do you know how bad it is? How bad the traffic is? It's dreadful. I was in Liverpool the other day. It's dreadful. There's Huggles Cake from the US. See, they're all waking up now. There's lads in Iraq, there's guys in Australia, there's lads in the US. Everybody's coming along. There's such an amazing amount of people watching. This has been the busiest day ever. Of course, we put out a video a day. YouTube is suddenly going, we must be doing something else interesting, so I give them more, which is good. But if you click the like button, it does help. Honestly, it does. Click the like till it reaches 100, and then click it again till it reaches 200. I know, sorry. Liam Cotter says, an Apple Green forecourt has about 200 fills an hour. How are electric forecourts charging docks going to cope with the volume of customers when an average charge takes 2 to 3 hours? It's a way of looking at it, but generally, the only place you can get petrol diesel is at a forecourt. The places you can get electric is pretty much everywhere if there's a plug. You can get electricity. And as more and more people put in charge points at their houses, they'll charge at home more often. And there is a possibility, like with EV Box. So I got an EV Box put into my house, which is a brand. And what they can do is they can actually map other EV boxes. So I could put in an EV box on the outside of my house, and when I'm not using it, I can give a registration to my neighbour who can use it instead. But I can actually charge them. I make money out of that. So other people can be billed by using my EV box. And I can bill it like just above the going rate. So they can charge from my EV box, so they don't need one. So it's totally possible for them to do that. And that's a good future. If you think about how that could work, that's actually a nice little future that would go well. In a way, you could get that done so you could just continually put out or have your own electric charge points in your house. You could put in 2 of them, and you could sell electricity to other people if you wanted to, in its own sort of a nice way. And I do have to give a shout out to Mulhall Electrical. Mulhare Electrical, sorry, Des Mulhare Electrical, who put in the charge box for me. You can get in touch with him. He'll sort out the things about grants and stuff as well for you if you really want to do that. But he's doing it, and I'm only recommending, not because he's not paying for it. He's not paying for it. He's not sponsoring the channel. I'm recommending him because he installed it in the house. Very professional job. Great expense was done here to make sure that all done in a way that made it, because we're replacing a box, that made it look nice. So he did a great job. So if you want to get in touch with him, Des Mulhare Electrical, and you'll find a website called Mulhare Electrical as well. Anyway, David Bradley says, any sign of you testing a Golf GTI TCR? Not here. I don't know if they're even going to bring it. The way the WLTP is messing with the prices at the moment, and before October, we don't know what the price of that's going to be. No one's going to buy a GTI Golf TCR Golf if it's 70 grand or something, so it's crazy. There's Philip Nolan, who's over in Florida on a little break, on a sort of a travel thing. Sorry, he's out there doing his stuff out in Florida. You can follow him on Instagram, on Twitter as well. You'll find Philip Nolan. He's also on Facebook as well, but you'll find him out there. Check him out because he puts up great little posts and stuff about his journey on transatlantic flights. It was really nice. I'm so jealous. I'd love to be out in Florida today, having a lovely time by the sea. Go and get on a roller coaster or something for the crack. Barry Walsh, why is there not a hybrid van, just electric or diesel? No room for it, basically. Vans are all about the size of the capacity of the back of it, right? And once upon a time, they actually used to just punish drivers for driving a van. They were horribly hard to drive and awkward to sit in, and terrible dogs. It was just about capacity. But these days, it's all about being on the road. A van is an asset. A van is something that a small business user, and I sympathise with small business users, you have to be able to get up in the morning and click that thing, turn it on, it has to go. End this story. That thing will have to operate all day, every day, without fail, because a business lives and dies on its transport. You think of decorators, painters, the lads out in Greenfeet that I work with on their marketing and things, they have a fleet, 10 vans they have on the road. If something happened one of them vans in the morning, it's a catastrophe when it goes wrong. So the chances of, and there's also the VAT question. So diesel vans, you can claim the VAT back on purchase of diesel. You can't do that on petrol, and that's a massive oversight, and I think that's going to change in this month's or this year's budget. But I think there's a lot of changes coming this year's budget, and I think you're going to get ripped off this year in your budgets, but we'll see. Steve O.C. says, I had a little chuckle at the Up Yours at Loan, commenting the video about the dead centre of Ireland. Well, if you look at us on a map, Port Laois is right, bang, right there. Laois is in the middle. Even though on the advertising stuff that's out there, they say that Laois is in the east for some strange reason, even though the heartlands of Ireland is Laois. In the middle. But yeah, well, I don't care. That's the way they are. Cross says, average will be and is 30 minutes. The head ends of the rapid chargers can be separated from the back ends, and inverters converting AC to DC and split any. Think more like a car park than a fuel station. Yeah, pretty much. You can go through them very quick. There's a great little video you can look up on the Model 3s being charged in the docks over in Holland. I think it's in Holland. I can't remember wherever they are anyway. A bank of Model 3s. This guy has chargers all set up, and it just supercharges them, and just move the bank down. It's really cool, really good. Diesel hybrid are the future? I don't think so. I don't know. It's very complicated. Diesel hybrid is very hard to do. Peugeot did it, and it failed. Nobody bought it because it made the car very expensive. Because you're putting two engines in. You're putting an expensive diesel engine into an expensive electric engine as well. So it's very expensive. The greatest disaster ever actually overtook me the other day, which is the Chevy Bolt, I think, or the Opel Ampera, same car. It overtook me the other day on the N7, and I was so impressed I took a picture of it. Swear to God, I think it's the second one I've ever seen in Ireland, and I drove it on its launch in Germany. It was a fantastic machine, but it had 3 engines. It was crazy price as well for a 4-seat yoke. Lehman Brothers says electric cars will be like the EU. First, they'll give you a sweetener. Then they'll want you to your soul in electricity. That's exactly what's coming at you. The price of electric will start to rise as more and more of a draw happens on it. It's a supply and demand thing. As more of a draw comes on it, you'll find that the price will start to rise on the price of electricity, on the installation of your charge points, of whatever it is. They'll just start driving up the little price around the edge. It'll be a dystopian future. We'll all be sitting on buses waiting to go places. That's what'll happen. Anyway, RTD vlogs games. Wow, you do vlogs and games. You have to narrow your stuff down. You really should. What car are you most excited for to review in the future? Tomorrow's car. Can't say what it is, but look at my Instagram. You'll see tomorrow what tomorrow's car is. That's the most exciting car. I've just arranged it last week. It's because the channel has become gigantic, and I now the biggest car channel in Ireland. Actually, I have been for a while, but I'm definitely the biggest one now. Yeah. Tomorrow's car is the most exciting. Follow me on Instagram. Head over there. Click the link thing and keep an eye on the stories tomorrow, and you'll get the shock of your life of what next week's car is going to be and what next week's review is going to be. I'll try and get the review out as quick as I can, but I have to go to Frankfurt on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. I have to go to Frankfurt for Kia. Kia is going to round up what they're doing as well, what's coming in the future for them. So I'm going over to that. We're going to have a talk to the experts, do more interview stuff, and see what Kia says about the future, because we have what Seat says about the future. But RTD vlogs games, do one or the other. Honestly, I just do cars, so my channel is growing really quickly. I have no idea how many subscribers you have, but if you want to get more subscriber, do either vlogs or games. It's probably the best way of it, because your channel name is difficult to pronounce. Cross 13. If they apply the same amount of tax per kilometre to fuel excise as road tax, yield, and everyone was EV, the running cost would still be 40-50% below combustion. Yeah, but they want to get that money back one way or the other. Something's going to have to give when it comes. Like, they don't tax like that. That's not the way tax. Tax works in they have a balance sheet. They need to earn 50 billion this year or whatever it is, and they make all those taxes add up to 50 billion. That's how it works. If you want to change something for the good, it still has to add up to 50 billion. So if they're losing money somewhere, they're going to find a way to get it back. So 40-50% below combustion engine cars sounds good, until you find that your ESB bill is 500 quid a month. Barry Walsh just looked at the Google reviews from the 7-seater car today, and someone wrote last week that they've kept their deposit even though they said they would refund. You see, these are criminal things. So that's a criminal offence. Something's after happening, or the police need to get involved. There has to be some sort of criminal thing going on there, because if there isn't, then someone's doing something wrong. So really, leave it to the police as the next step, but never ever, honest to God, I don't know why people go to these people and get cars off them. If you go to a main dealer, you're going to pay a little bit more money, but you've got security that they know what you're doing, and you're going to get treated like a proper customer there. If you go to someone who's been in existence for 10 plus years, even if they're not a main dealer, you're still in a good terms. You still know these people have a reputation. If you're going to go to someone who set up on a Nace Road last week, or set out in the airport 6 months ago, and hand them 6,000 or 7,000 euro of a deposit, and then go, well, you know what, sure, fine, you keep that, it's okay. What do you think's going to happen? A fool and his money is easily parted. Never ever do that. Never. A deposit, lads, look, a deposit on something is something to say that you're serious. If they say deposit has to be 20%, walk away. This is a buyer's market. You're in a buyer's market. Honest to God, every dealership out there is clambering over themselves to sell cars. You're in a buyer's market. Walk away. Tell me, give them 200 quid of a deposit. There's your deposit. End of story. Walk away. Anyway, I have a TCR coming beginning July. Drove the R, found it heavy, was trading up from GTI Performance and hoping to get a noticeable difference. Have I driven a TCR? No, I haven't. Don't you have? Because electricity is inherently cheaper than liquid fuels, cheaper to distribute, and EVs use the power 3 to 4 times more efficiently. Yeah, still not sure I believe all that. But yeah, I'm sure it's probably true, but I'm still not sure I believe all that sort of stuff until I see it for myself. What I see for myself right now is I have the Zoe, and yesterday I drove to Dublin and back again, and then I charged it yesterday afternoon. I charged it during the night. It's full out there again. I haven't moved it all day. I went for a run. I'm doing this. I'll go to the shop later on maybe, but that's it. You know, they work. Electric cars really do work, and they really do save you money. But the price of that car, a good example I've heard was, you look at the price of a Hyundai Kona diesel is 29 something or other. A Hyundai Kona electric is 49. There's 20 grand in between those two cars. Same car, just fueled differently, that's all. Same dimensions and everything. Anyway, sorry. Dominic Gavin says, Bob, how long do you think before Dublin follows London by introducing ULEZ? What's ULEZ? What's that mean? I don't know what that means. I can't look it up right now either. I could probably Google it though, couldn't I? ULEZ. Is that like special lanes or something that you can't go into or some stuff like that? Sorry, entertain yourselves for a second while I try and, like an old man, try to Google the word ULEZ. ULEZ. Someone out there is literally complaining right now that Bob doesn't know what this is. How do you not know? Ultra low emission zone. That's what it means. See, acronyms are no good at that sort of crap. They will for sure bring it in within the next 12 months. Either this budget or the next budget, you'll have these low emission zones. So Paris brought it in. Paris is catastrophe of a yoke to drive around. It stinks everywhere you go. Sit out there in the Champs-Elysees and enjoy your coffee while you breathe in that emissions of... It's horrible stuff. Anyway, ultra low emission zones is a zone that's been zoned out like the way they had carbon taxes, or the way they've had an emission zone where you have to pay a tax going into it. So we'll bring that in here as well. Eventually Dublin will probably have it. Cork might do it as well, and Galway might do it too. Galway's traffic is catastrophe as well, because it's a medieval bloody town. It's not designed to carry that much traffic. So it will happen in the next 12, 13, 14 months. I don't really have a problem with that, because anything that discourages bringing a car into the city centre is brilliant. And I do believe for 100% that Dublin is the perfect place to go car free. Totally. Get taxis out there as well. Don't put that in there. Nothing. You could very easily have electric cars transporting people back and forth. We already have the electric Lewis. We could electrify the bus systems. It really wouldn't take a whole lot of effort to do it. You really don't need to be driving in the Dublin city centre anymore. There's so many ring roads and opportunities to go around the city centre, go where you want to go. You don't really have to be in there. It's only a handful of people that actually work in the city centre that need to be driving in there. Anyway, parking costs a bleeding fortune. John McLinden. What about these two professors in Trinity who claim to have almost accidentally discovered a mechanism that will almost double the power of a given battery? Okay, so I know the story you're talking about, and it sounds exciting. But generally speaking, these guys that are researching like that and put out suddenly, oh, the hydrogen is the future. This is the greatest thing we can do to battery, and the battery will be huge. What they're looking for is funding. That's generally what comes down to first. So they're putting out a news story so people are talking about them, and then they go looking for funding and they get more grants, and maybe someone wants to invest a bit of money in them and they get to do more research. They've yet to produce a battery that does that they said they were going to do. So they've yet to produce that. They say they can, or they can discover it, or it's been done, but really, why wouldn't a car company come in and just buy them out? Just go, here's $50 million, go away, we'll take it from here. That's what needs to happen next. Where are we? I'm at 2:30 and we are at 3:10, so I'm miles behind, as per usual. Jimmy, it's such a busy day as well. It's 120 people watched once. This is going to be a big day on the channel, I have to say. Again, it's brilliant to have you all here. Honest to God, I do run this as a radio station as much as I can on this day. I read out all your questions, answer all your stuff. So if you feel like supporting the channel, please do hit that subscribe button for at least a subscribe. But you can also use the super chat little icon down there. Or you can do PayPal and Patreon, which are both below in linked comments down below. And you can go and buy a t-shirt or a hoodie or something from Teespring, or you can go to Amazon and buy something off that shop. Genuinely, the things I picked out on Amazon for sale are things I actually use all the time. Somebody said to me the other day that I don't use the Lazy Drive. I do use the Lazy Drive. It's right here. See, I do. I use the 2 terabyte Lazy Drive for editing all the time. So yeah, it is. That's on that there as well. Where are we? Jimmy Ornally. Hi Bob. I'm changing my car in August. Would you recommend a new 3 Series or go for the 5 Series? What's your opinion on PCP or higher purchase tanks? I am generally a fan of buying a car with 50% of collateral. So you stump up half the price of the car and then you finance the other half of it through a credit union or a car loan from a bank yourself. Do it yourself. The reason I like that is because you already own half the car. So you've kind of insulated yourself against anything. You've mitigated the things that could possibly happen, your job or your lifestyle or an injury to put you out of work or whatever. You've mitigated against that. So it's very hard that if anything goes wrong, you start defaulting on payments, it's very hard to repossess the car or to do it because you pay more than half of the value. Now that's not a cheat, that's just logic. A PCP system works for certain individuals. So you get into a PCP system, you pay a big deposit or a deposit at the beginning. Some of that deposit can be the car you're trading in, other parts of the deposit is pure cash. Then you pay a fixed amount of money over 3 years. At the end of 3 years, you've got 3 choices. You pay off the loan dead, so you pay what would be, in old terms, called a balloon payment at the end, which is the inflated end of it. So after all the interest is applied and everything else, the balloon payment pays out. Then, therefore, you own the car outright. You may do whatever you wish with the car at that point. You can hand the keys back. This is starting to happen. There are a number of people who have come back. It's quite low as far as I'm aware. I'd give on average, depending on the answers I get all over the place, I get different answers from everybody, but it's generally somewhere between 3 and 6% of people hand the keys back. If the car meets all the requirements, you own nothing more. So unless you've driven the car into a wall, it's all damaged, whatever, you may still owe money. This is not a safe way out. Not a safe way out. But you can, if your car is meeting all the requirements, hand the keys back, then just take it and walk away. Or you can trade the car, pay off the balance, trade the car in and start another PCP plan. So that's your 3 kind of options. So you still got to pay the balance off one way or the other if you want to continue with PCP. But the value of the car at the end is part of the value of the car overall. So that's, you have to pay the balance between it and the remainder of the car. I would buy PCP if I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. So if I got a good job now and I think the job is going okay, but I'm not sure it's going to last another 10 or 15 years, I'm looking at PCP then. Because at the end of the 3 years, if I'm not employed anymore, I can hand the keys back. But really only in that circumstance. Every other circumstances, I go for my own 50% of the car and try and buy it out from there on out. And out of those 2 cars you gave me, Jimmy, from a 3 or a 5 Series, I would go a 3 Series. A standard 3 Series 320 diesel, stick some nice alloys on it, get some nice interior, get a good upgraded sound system. It's nearly as big as a 5 Series now anyway. Only buy rear wheel drive. Do not be convinced into the Form X drive thing. Get rear wheel drive and you'll have a ball. I wouldn't bother with the 5 Series, to be honest with you, just because the 3 Series is so bloody good. Cross says, there are those kind of discoveries 100 times a year. The real test of any new battery technology is mass production and proper price per kilowatt. That's what I was saying as well. We get that all the time. Jeez, I've seen so many videos this year on Facebook of people in the outer bleeding Hebrides telling you that they're after inventing a way to make hydrogen dance and generate 2 million kilowatts of power. It's just looking for funding. There's millions of that stuff. Happens all the time. New Renault Zoe is launched, by the way, 54 kilowatt pack, more powerful motor, much nicer interior, 28 grand in Ireland before the 5 grand battery owned. That's really good. The one I have is a 41 kilowatt hour Zoe. Not too sure about the interior. If you're looking at the older one, the seats are seat covers essentially, which I find a bit weird. They don't feel like they've got zips up the back of them and things. It's like different interior, and they're a bit slippy and very hard to handle, but it works. As for me, I'd go for our car outside the door. I'd definitely buy an old Zoe, an old Leaf, something like that for sure. Jeff says, why do you think about this craze, madness with SUVs? They drive worse than sedans, except those pretty expensive. It is Indiana Jones Adventure wannabe in us. People like a higher driving position, and people are sheep as well. Meh, that kind of sheep. So when they see their neighbour buy an SUV, they go, oh, that looks nice, I want to buy an SUV. And so car companies make an SUV of different sizes. So they buy the small Capture, Renault Capture one, and then there's another one up from that, another one up from that, until they get all of them covered. Essentially, they stopgap. They're not very efficient. Some of them are really nice. I like the Seat Tarraco. I really like that, and I like the Skoda Kodiaq as big SUVs. So if you need a big car, that's a big SUV. But then other people, like I was recommending to a woman the other day, she went from a Ford Galaxy, and she asked me what to buy, and I went, why don't you try a Skoda Kodiaq or Seat Tarraco? She went and drove it and found it was really light in comparison to her Galaxy. She felt the whole thing felt very light. And I tend to agree, because Ford tend to make very heavy cars, very solid, very lump of a car. So I don't know what it is, whether people are just, like I say, sheep, they're just buying it because, they're looking at the car and going, I like SUVs, I like big cars, or it's an Americana thing that's after happening over here as well, where Americans tend to buy a lot of big trucks, man, yeah. Barry Walsh says, completely agree with the city SUV craze, had a company Tucson. As a tall person, legroom was only fair, plus I felt like some fickle person driving an SUV Mondeo, and Insignia way better to drive. Absolutely. Saloon cars, great value in saloon cars at the moment. You look at a saloon Corolla, there's a nice little value in there for a value proposition. Camry is fairly well priced. The price of a Camry wouldn't get you into a Kodiaq. I don't think 44 grand, in that range. And it's a big car, so if you don't need the last row of seats or a gigantic boot, you're at nothing. But they'd be extreme cases. So if you're looking at the smaller SUVs, if you take an Audi Q3 or something where it's like a small SUV, you're basically buying a 5-door hatchback that's just been pushed up in the air a little bit. So it's a little bit odd in that respect. I'd stay away from that. The Hindenburg, 61 hours, 38 minutes from Friedrichshafen in Germany to Lakehurst, New Jersey. Get out! Was it 61 hours? What would you do for 61 hours on a blimp? I mean, there's not much room. If you look at the actual blimp, you look at the passenger space, not the blimp bit hanging above it, that's empty. Well, it's full of gas, but it's relatively empty. But underneath, there's a little bit that's slung on. There probably couldn't be much to do. You'd have to sleep or something all the time. 61 hours. That'd be crazy. I would be wasted drunk for most of that 61 hours. Nothing else to do. Lying in a corner trying to figure out what to say next. Inspiron55 says, I have a 17-year-old 1.2 Polo. Should I hold on to it and wait for the dust to settle over the new car climate price situation? I would wait. I'm waiting. I have a 13-year-old 1.6 litre Seat Leon, and I ain't changing that just yet till I find out where all this climate stuff is going, because either the arse will fall out of the electric car market, which is one possibility. If this doesn't take off, if people don't buy them, or they don't want to buy in, or being a bit canny and want to hang on for something, then that's demand is met, and then you're at this point where there's a pile of electric cars in the country and no one's buying the things, because a lot of early adopters will have bought in at this point, but that's come to an end. So I'd wait. If it's running okay and it's working okay for you, and it's everything's inside is fine, you're getting your little radio on it, you're all happy with it, there's no reason to change the car. If you're, for some reason, you've got a hankering to get out of the car, you're unhappy with it, or it's giving you trouble, well then maybe change it. But other than that, I'd hang on till 2024 to buy any electric cars. We just got Kia Soul in the market, e-Soul I mean. The e-Neros here, there's more electric cars on the way, so the choice will start to open up for you for what electric cars are changed to anyway, along with the bottom end of the market as people get out of Generation 1 Nissan Leaf, Renault Zoe, Renault Fluence, i3s, all these other cars will start to come and start moving into the market. We'll settle down over time as a business thing. Steve O says, some houses have more than one car. How do you charge them on a driveway at the same time? If you only have roadside parking, what do you do then? There isn't a good answer for that one. It's something we will have to sort out. I'm in the same situation. I have a driveway, so I have a car in a driveway, but only one car fits there at a time, so I can only charge one electric car at a time. Then I have to reverse it out and pull in another electric car to charge that one. So unless you get a really long lead, which is not practicable either, because someone's going to trip over it. So there isn't a good answer to that one. We also had the problem with apartments, people living in apartment blocks. You live on the top floor, you haven't even got a parking space outside to charge with. How do you lock your charge point? How do you stop other people using a charge point? When you're building an apartment block, will the builders have to put in a charge point for every apartment? So you've got 50 apartments, you've got 50 charge points outside. Is that the way it's going to work? That won't work out. That won't be very good. It's possible, but it's just not very good. Brian Cullen says, Bob, cordless DIY power tools are starting to emerge with super fast charging in seconds using a supercapacitor instead of lithium ion. Wonder will this eventually migrate to cars? It's possible. Whether you could upgrade something to that size is the problem. It's the sheer volume. A power tool has like a 5-volt battery stuck in the bottom. It's a tiny amount compared to 40, 50, 60, 70 kilowatt batteries that are attached to cars. So I'm not sure that's going to work out. But there is, I was literally talking, because of my work with Greenfeet, I work with a company called Greenfeet, greenfeet.ie if you want to check it out. I do some marketing work with them and training and media training. And I do with a lot of small companies, but Greenfeet is probably the most proactive one and the most hardest working one, I suppose. But we work with Husqvarna with robotic mowers where it's all lithium-ion batteries, and we see Husqvarna now are bringing out a range of blowers and mowers and industrial equipment that are all run off battery packs that you put on your back. So it's interchangeable. So it's really cool actually. You put a battery pack on, which is quite a big lithium-ion battery, but not terribly heavy, like a backpack, and you got a plug that you just plug things in and plug things out as you want them. So you plug in a leaf blower, you plug that out, and you plug in a chainsaw, and away you go. It just keeps going. It's a genius system. So that's happening, definitely happening. Charles Costa, I'm sorry it took me so long to reach this, but you donated by Super Chat. You are very kind. Thank you very much to have you. Love to have you here, man. I'm doing very well, Charles Costa. Thank you very much. They're answering other questions. People are talking to one another. Hindenburg took 4 to 5 days across the Atlantic. Isn't that amazing? How have we gone so wrong? How have we gone from 4 or 5 days of just relax, take it easy, don't do anything else, to get the hell across the estate there in 6 hours? No! Sorry, it jumped forward to me again to that same old jumpy thing, which is good. Is it cold already having a flu, Bob? No, I'm not cold. Oh, you mean this thing in my neck? No, that's just, I was out running this morning. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can go to my Instagram. There is a link down below to that as well if you want to do it there. I do Instagram stories there quite a bit. A lot of it isn't to do with cars. Some of it is to do with cars. Sometimes I'm on a trip and you can see the Instagram story before I even get there. But other bits are about running or thoughts that strike me along the way. So it's fairly varied. A lot of people seem to like the Instagram things that don't necessarily like the car videos. So that happens too. Brendan Coleman says, hi Bob, I just changed my car. Should I have went for electric, or was I right to wait for another few years? No, hang on till 2020. I wouldn't buy an electric car this year unless I was just ready to change. Unless I've done, and you're looking at a Kia Soul or Audi e-tron or whatever, you go, God, that looks really good. I changed then, of course I changed. Financially, you change with your heart, you don't necessarily change financial reasons. But I would wait, if I was being very logical about it, I'd wait for 2020. There's so much stuff on the way. You seen that Seat video I put out the other day where you're looking at that Seat car, the new one that's on the way? That's coming 2020. That's a gorgeous looking machine. I mean, that really is bite the back of your hand pretty for an electric car. So you can imagine what the Volkswagen ID3 is going to look like in the flesh, I mean the metal. Then you have Audi's going to bring another range of e-tron stuff. BMW's looking at some electric cars. This is all 2020 stuff. Now it's all dependent on being able to get batteries. It's like gas. We can manufacture millions of engines a year, millions of them, no problem. We can supply trucks and planes and buses and cars and a whole lot. But electric cars, we can make millions of engines, but we can't get the fuel source. That's the big problem at the moment. And we get caught getting child labour to pull lithium out of the ground. One incident, but it's enough to make it a little doubt in your head. What did everyone talk about before the electric cars? Yeah, no, we used to talk about petrol engines and repairs. We used to repair cars. I remember the good old days of the Sunday service where I'd sit here and talk about repairing a track rod end or a boot or a shim or something on a car. Nowadays, you just talk about electric cars. So that's it. Anyway, get on message, talk about electric cars. Charles Costa says, Sweden is having a lot of problems. Everybody is buying electric cars and they can't supply even 50% of their needs. That's where all your electric cars are gone. By the way, the supply of almost every bloody electric car that ever came on the market has just gone to Sweden. And the reason they did that is a pretty clever idea. Instead of making electric cars cheap, now instead of granting the crap on them like we're doing in Ireland, giving it like $5,000 here and $5,000 there, and scrapping schemes or whatever else, what they did was they made the price of petrol and diesel cars very high, so they taxed the crap out of it. Now in Ireland we've done both. We've made electric cars granted, and we taxed the crap out of petrol and diesel cars, and yet we all still buy them. Anyway, that's just the way they do it. Jeff says the Hindenburg flight lasted 3 days from Germany to New York. 3 days. I'd love that. Can you imagine 3 days just sitting above the clouds, hoovering along in a blimp? I know before you burned up to your death on landing the other end, but it was a good 3 days, I'm sure. Up to that point it was deadly. Charles Costa. Oh, no, we did that one. David Rodriguez. Hi, great show. Thanks. What do you think about the biofuel cars or LPG alone? We've had LPG in Ireland for years. We had a lot of taxi transfer over to LPG. The big problem is most of the LPG stations were ripped out, and now we had to put them back in again because there's like tax benefits to it now. But generally speaking, electric cars can easily replace what an LPG car does. Easily. LPG was not terribly fuel efficient. Although it does put out different gases, it still burns gas. It's still a fossil fuel. So it's liquid petroleum gas. So it's still a fossil fuel. So I wouldn't be too jumpy just jumping at it straight away. But at the same time, if that's what you can make work for you, the first diesel engines were run on peanut oil. You know, that's what they were designed to run on. Just you couldn't get enough peanut oil. So started running on diesel instead. So there's multiple ways you can get fuel into your car. Now, I'm not saying strain your chip shop oil for your diesel engine. We did that. There's rates and things to pay on that. The government slapped that down. Can't have no free fuel, boys. Oh, no. But they give you free electricity, though, but they won't give you free fuel. That's why I had to queue up yesterday for bleeding electricity at the fast charge point. And I didn't even want fast charge. I can't because there's no fast charger on that thing. Where are we? Still moving down. Don't forget to support the channel. There's a load of links down below there, and you can use the super chat right here on YouTube if you want, or you can use PayPal or Patreon, drip feed, few tip jar, whatever it is. You're feeling entertained by this, I don't get license fee or nothing like that. So whatever you can do to support channels, always reinvested into equipment and kit and stuff and bloody hard drives to store all the stuff on. JJ Simmons, great name, JJ. Why waste your time doing shows on €63,000 cars? Here in Ireland, we're normal like. Well, you know, the normal price for cars right now, about the average price is closer to €33,000. The average price of an electric car, if you take away all the discounts, a Hyundai Kona costs €49,000. The majority of sales of cars at the moment are in the mid-price range, so anywhere from €40,000 to €60,000 cars. So just think about that. Why then I would review a €63,000 car? Think about that. Because people buy it. Because people want to see that kind of review as well. That's the same idea when you look at Top Gear, which by the way is back, was on last Sunday, as on tonight. It was actually kind of nearly almost sort of funny. In bits, in patches. Not too sure that what you call them is good on anymore. Anyway, maybe not. I mean, I shouldn't be criticising Top Gear, but it's back on time. But that's why Top Gear and the likes of them do an awful lot of high performance cars. So stupid cars you never get to see, because people will watch that, but they don't necessarily want to watch them drive around in a Kia Ceed or something. I cannot even begin to pronounce that name. But anyway, I'm going to try and answer your question. Average fuel mix for the last 24 hours is 47% renewable, though we're back to burning coal at 2.6% in Ireland. Oh my God. The frustration of burning coal for electricity. Can you imagine turning compressed crap that's been millions of years underground, has been mined out by machine and torn apart and creating huge vast holes in the ground just so we can burn it to turn it into a light? That's good. I was going to show that the message was held a review there by the YouTube system, but it's smartgrid dash at airgrid.com. You can click that link which Velocivod has put up. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. But that smartgrid dash, I do look at that every once in a while. It tells you a mix of how we're getting our energy, whether we're getting it from wind or water or power, or how it's coming. But it's unfortunate to see the coal and the turf thing. It's just dreadful. I hate to see it. It's an awful thing. Fossil fuels you to mine out of the ground and destroy vast areas of bog. That's a World Heritage thing. It's just been burnt for electricity. It's absolutely awful. Anyway. The only single-digit rise in electricity demand, they are 99% hydro, 1% imported wind. I don't know what that's in relation to. It could be another question. Sorry about that. Adrian Hanratty says, Bob, what are your thoughts on the Jaguar F-Pace compared to the Audi Q5 and BMW X3? F-Pace is brilliant, has a lot of electrical glitches. The one I had electrical glitches as well. Hard to prove, but wasn't able to take fast charges in certain fast charge points. I'm sure Jaguar will come up with a software solve for that eventually. It's probably a software issue rather than an electric issue or a physical issue. They are gorgeous, totally comparable. Audi Q5 and X3 totally comparable, but vastly different fuel sources. So unless you're prepared to deal with the electric thing, you have to deal with it. It's not something that just a switch goes, you go, oh well, look, I'm just driving an electric car now. There is a point where a crossover point. First few weeks of ownership, you have to deal with understanding how far you can go and where you can get electricity when you get there and how long it's going to have to charge while you're there and all that sort of stuff. So if you regularly commute across the country, you're going from Galway to Dublin, you need to know that on the other end there is some sort of a charge point, because it's often you pull into a car park, a registered car park you have to pay for, and there's no charge point in it, or it's already full, one or the other. And you can't just leave a car charging there all day, because the EV Owners Club of Ireland will take a picture of you and post it online and give you shit for it. So that's the way they operate as well. Not all of them. Some of them are really, really nice. Other ones just seem to be very uptight about their electric cars. Steve-O says, government plan to cut down trees, add bus lanes, force people out of cars into buses. The result is no trees, wide roads, empty car lanes. New government, please, at this stage. You're absolutely spot on, and that is 100% accurate. The way that they operate, the way we build our infrastructure around roads, the width of roads, how many lanes we have on roads, instead of building it around how people move. A good example of that is, I have a park not far from here. And in that park, there's a perfectly good footpath around the park, right? Perfectly good. Tarmac, you can walk it, you can cycle and do the whole lot. Yet across the green area, there's a path. Not a real path. A path just because that's the desire line. It's called a desire line. Humans do it all the time. Architects can't legislate for it. You build something, and then you go, why is no one using the path over there? Because they want to go over there and they want to go there by the straightest line. So just go straight across the grass, and they've created their own path. Now the government continually ignore this desire idea and they just go, let's build a wider road because you need to get bigger trucks up here. You don't need to get bigger trucks. You need to find a way that the truck doesn't have to come up here at all. That's how you do it. We definitely need a new direction. We definitely need better consultation from the government. We definitely need the government to look outside of the normal people who end up on every single committee in the country, being paid a phenomenal amount of cash to turn up and give their opinion on some sort of committee, and then they go home and they drive home in their diesel cars every night, or they fly home in their private jet. We need a different group of people to come forward and start understanding how things work. The majority of people who work in government are not business people. They're not from trades. They're teachers. They're taking sabbaticals and timeouts and stuff to just be there. Doctors. Our Taoiseach is a bleeding doctor. And the HSE and the health service is in a dire state, and this guy's a doctor. So if he can't solve it, if he can't help it, well then what hope is there for the rest of us? Minister for Transport who cycles to work. It's gas. These guys don't know what they're talking about, and they're making legislation for you. Anyway, Thomas Clark says, have a Tekka 2-litre HDI changing next year, same again, or PHEV Outlander. PHEV Outlander is probably the most efficient car I've probably ever driven. It's ferociously a brilliant machine, but it just feels like a Japanese car. It's like a car that's made for Southeast Asia or something. It doesn't feel like a car that was designed with the idea of Europe in mind. It's not. It's very plasticky and things. So it'll be a bit of a step from an Tekka 2-litre to go to a Outlander. I wouldn't go PHEV anyway. I think PHEV is kind of a fallacy, guys, to be honest with you. I really do. I think PHEV is a very specific group of people who live on the edge of a city and drive to work in the city. Then it kind of works for them, but half them people don't even charge the bloody car anyway. So it's a very, very specific set of circumstances PHEV works. If you make the best of a PHEV, just buy an electric car. Just have done with it and buy a Leaf or buy a e-Golf or something. Then you're in it. Barry Walsh says, for lunch, my fruit salad was single-use plastic, my water bottle was plastic, my sandwich was wrapped in a single-use plastic, the punnet of oranges was plastic, and this was just my lunch. What's the alternative, though? The alternative is paper. Compostable, recyclable plastics and paper. They are out there, they exist, they cost a tiny bit more. The other alternative as well, of course, you go to Tesco's, you buy a punnet of strawberries or a punnet of tomatoes, and the tomatoes are in a punnet and then they're wrapped in a single plastic as well. You don't need to do that. Look at what Lidl has been doing for the last while. I know it's not a great system to work it out, but another way of looking is Lidl sell an awful lot of things like peppers and things singly. So you buy one pepper, or you pay by weight. So they sell cherries by weight. They sell sometimes they have strawberries by weight. Sometimes they have apples and oranges. They're all singly done. So most of the stuff we buy comes in its own wrapper. Look at bananas. They come in a perfectly good wrapper. Yet I've seen them wrapped in plastic again. Right? So it makes no sense. The perfectly run compostable wrapper of a banana and yet we have to go to Costa Rica to get a bleeding thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the plastics we're using out there, we have to make. We are the deciders. We're the ones who make the decision. If when we stop buying something, then they stop making it because profits fall. The minute we say, no, we're not having any more of that plastic. No, I'm not buying that because it's wrapped in plastic, is the moment they will stop making it. They will find other ways. I got a Open University thing from, it's the star map from the BBC, actually, believe it or not. I wrote in from a TV show that was on there about the universe, and they sent out a star map, and the star map was wrapped in plastic, and I immediately went, oh no, wrapped in bloody plastic again. But on the front, it's 100% compostable plastic. I can recycle it. Don't do compostable, like it's straight into the bin, to the compost bin. Fabulous. But everybody has to do that, and we have to stop consuming so much. That's essentially it. We have to consume less of the things that you buy out. So, I mean, the way around your stuff was to bring your own bottle of water, which I do regularly here, direct from your tap. Your fruit salad would be to make the thing yourself at home instead of buying one. Your sandwich, make your own sandwich. You know, you're cut. Everything's cutting down because you're doing it rather than someone else having to pre-package it because of health reasons. They have to package it all up. Anyway, Cross says aircraft only 3% of emissions. Is eventually they will go electric for regional or bio and synthetic fuel for long haul. Container ships should go nuclear for hub to hub or electric distribution. I'd say with the nuclear, that would be a good idea because a lot of military fleets are actually nuclear because they stay on the water consistently. They very rarely actually go into to stop anywhere, so they're always moving. Like aircraft carriers are nuclear powered. It would definitely be a 100% option in the future for the shipping. Aircraft, you know, if you look at how the emissions work, the trails they leave behind them, I'm not talking about contrails or any of that kind of crap, but you look at the trails they leave behind them, and there are mornings you look out and you see the crisscross in the sky and you realise just how much steam is being put out, how much water vapour comes out of them as well, you know. So there's an element of that too that's not counted as pollution directly. Thomas Clark, what about Moore's chainsaw power washers in 2030? Where will I get my petrol? You won't. You just won't. But that's if they go ahead, they're going to ban it all. I don't know what happens to petrol stations. Think about that for a second. Brand new petrol stations right now, under new rates in Ireland, a petrol station is charged twice for rates instead of once, which is normal because they're charged by square foot, but they also have a coffee shop. So the coffee shop down the road pays less rates than the petrol station because they're calculated by square foot. But besides that, you just can't get rid of all the petrol and diesel cars and petrol and diesel and everything else along with it in 10 years. It's a ridiculous possibility, but still a possibility, and it's something we're all talking about. We definitely need a different government, and I don't think the Green Party will be the answer to that either, because the Green Party bent over and took it in 2008 to get their way on changing over from taxation on cars for the size of the engine. They went to CO2 emissions, and they completely ballsed up the economy. Completely. 2008, they just about shut nearly every small dealership in the country down inside 12 months, and that was the Green Party that did that. So I don't believe that they have all the answers either. I think they're just a misnomer as well. We're just looking for something. People would elect me if I ran, and I'm no politician at all. I'm the worst politician because I just 2 feet into some corner go, you don't know what you're talking about. But people would do that because they're searching for something different from the normal, something different than Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and Labour or whatever those other talking shop crap that's out there at the moment. So that's what's going on. The government are dopes, is what Thomas Clark says, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Thomas Clark. You're absolutely right. The idea of being able to swap out the battery units as battery density increases in a use cases where it's possible to drop the generators. This is from Cross. DFDS has a flexible container ship designed from a shipbuilder. I know an order designed to take containerized batteries and optional diesel generators. This is a good idea. Also DFDS, is it DFDS? Is after bringing in a Volvo truck automated battery shunting truck. So a truck that moves the containers around on the dock is going to be an automated Volvo battery powered thing. Pretty cool. It's another job lost though, isn't it? Anyway, Paul Falk says, hello Bob, your thoughts on eco interiors? Not time to keep the leather out. Yeah, there is good alternatives these days to leather. Now in fairness, the leather that's used in, real leather, the ones that actually comes from killing a cow somewhere, is specifically made. They specifically go after particular herds for that leather, and that the herd is going to be killed anyway. So for meat production. So you might as well do something with it, make a car of it. Although a lot of people out there, vegans and vegetarians and things, don't like the idea of buying a leather interior car. And so it's people like Range Rover have brought out their interior made from eucalyptus, which feels a lot like a very comfortable cloth seat, but it's actually a eucalyptus interior, which is antibacterial. So it's really clever. And I'm talking about the whole interior, not even talking about just the seats. It's the whole, the dashboard and everything else is all embedded with eucalyptus. And it's made out of recyclable cotton fibres. Now, cotton is not the answer to everything either, but it's better than killing cows, right? So if you're growing whole herds of cows to supply the leather industry, well, if the leather industry doesn't want any leather, then there'll be less cows. So that's a win for everybody, because we should be eating less meat. Anyway, I'm not going to get on that trail right now, the less meat stuff. But anyway, here we go. Thomas Clark says, oh, he's answering cross, sorry. John Bitt says, Bob, hi. How long do modern car batteries last? I have 8-year car with an original battery, seems to be fine. If it's fine, don't worry a jot about it. If you come out in the morning, you turn the key and it goes, and just starts. End of story. Forget the battery. Nothing wrong with it. You don't need to change it. It's going to do fine. You can get battery testers, so you can get either an electronic battery tester, you actually physically hook on 2 bits to the terminals, and it'll show you a voltage. A voltage somewhere between 11.5 and 12.5 is fine. So it's a 12 volt battery. It'll work fine. If it's anywhere between those two, it's absolutely perfect. You can also get other battery testers which are specific weight battery test or something like that. You suck up stuff out of water out of it, and you test the weight of the battery inside. You can do it that way as well. There's multiple ways to test your battery, but generally speaking, if you're not having any electrical problems and your car is starting first time in the morning, no problem. You're leaving it for a couple of days and there's no problem, forget it, it's working fine. Batteries tend to last between 5 and 10 years. Generally, you will probably get, if under normal use, you will probably get 10 years out of a battery. If you replace it with a modern battery, you'll probably get more like 7 or 8 years. As battery technology moved on, they figured they weren't making as much money, so they made them a little bit, they give up after a while. But if your battery isn't working, or there's something else is happening within the car, definitely change your battery. It's fairly cheap. You can do it yourself, but be sure you have all the radio codes or anything else you might need to restart, because when you disconnect the battery, you reset the car to factory. So the whole car goes thunk, and everything gets ECU and everything goes all reset. When you connect the battery back up again, sometimes the radio won't work. The car will work fine. Sometimes the radio won't come on because it thinks it's after been stolen. So it thinks the radio has been pulled out of the car and someone's had to run away and plug it into their own car. So the car needs a code to go back on. Generally only affected by Renault, Nissan, some of the Citroen group stuff had those codes in it. Most of the Volkswagen's ones right don't, because the car's specific fit, it only fits that Volkswagen. Conversations breaking out over here. Isn't that great? People are all chatting away to one another, which means I have less questions answered. That's good. Yippee! That's a great name. Yippee. Why do electric car batteries last 8 years, but an Apple laptop battery only lasts 4? Because it's under consistent pressure. A car battery isn't. So in a car, you have to regulate that 12 volt electricity has to go around the whole time. So what happens is, when the car is running, it uses an alternator to charge the battery, as well as the battery supplying electricity to various components, usually lights, often heaters, sometimes the heater matrix, sometimes little bits of electronics around the car that need electricity. It comes from the battery. The alternator continually supplies power to the battery and to the car, so the alternator runs too. When you turn off the engine in the car, the battery runs all electric. So when you turn off the engine but you turn back on those lights and all the lights and the radio, the battery's supplying that power. So that way, that's consistently regulated by the whole system. When you buy a laptop, it's a different battery for a start, different kind. It's not 12 volt. The batteries, every time you plug it in, the battery's been charged to 100% by the laptop or by the electrics. And so after a time, that battery just can't cope with that kind of efficiency. The laptop doesn't consider the power of the battery. There's no regulation going on. It just draws all the power it needs to run and gives all the power back when you plug it back in. And so they can only last for that many cycles. They can only last so long. And all laptops are the same. It's not Apple laptops. All laptops are the same. My laptop is a mid-2012 Apple MacBook Pro. Battery still lasts a fair whack of time in it, but I'd say I'll probably be replacing it next year. New battery. I'd love to get a new laptop. I think at this stage, I put this thing under massive pressure on a daily basis, so I'm hoping it doesn't break down. I'd love to get another backup computer here somewhere, just to be on the safe side, so I don't end up going immediately nose videos. EV batteries are warranted for 8 years, last 15 to 25. Not at 100% capacity, I would wager. So you're not going to get 100% of its charge back in after 10 years or after 15 years. It'll degrade over time, but then that's easily testable as well to find out what the charge of the battery is. That's why car batteries only last for 10 years as well. I mean, ordinary 12-volt batteries. Tim Burke says, Mercedes seem to have stopped doing diesel hybrids. My dad had one in the UK and the option was gone when he went to change. Yes, they quietly kind of stopped doing it. So did Peugeot. Everyone did as well, because the electric car thing is no need for hybrids. I know Toyota is all hybrid at the moment, but they will go all electric eventually. And I know Steve Tormey, managing director, put out a statement recently saying about the direction and how difficult it was going to be and how ready they are for it and how they don't do diesels apart from the vans there, Steve. But we leave the commercial Toyotas to one side as they're all diesels. But the personal use fleet is all hybrids and they're all brilliant. In fairness, the fuel economy is amazing from the Camry, from the Corollas, from all of them. If you use them properly, they get serious MPG. I like the Prius as well, of course. Christopher Wayne says, your honesty is breath of fresh air. Thanks very much. Can't afford money for your channel, but that's okay. But regular like and subscribe for some time. Good man, Christopher. That's all I ever really want is new subscribers on the channel and people who stay consistently and comment and like and share and do the stuff around the edge. You don't need money to come here. This is a place for lads and girls and guys and kids and everyone else to hang out and just have a bit of crack. I always keep it family friendly as much as is humanly possible. There's no swearing or anything else. I don't get any of that sort of stuff on the channel at all. So it's really, really easy to keep this channel going in that respect. I never get that sort of attention from YouTube. So all I really want is people to subscribe and like. But for those that can or those that are willing to be able to support the channel in some way, it'd be brilliant, because it's all completely self-funded by me. And you and the people who do give money every month, or people who give money through Patreon or buy stuff on Amazon. I'm all in favour of the Amazon thing or the Teespring link, because you get something out of it and I get something out of it. That's brilliant. So, but if you can do it through PayPal, it's even better. That's all the money goes here. RTD Vlog says, cheers, thank you, no problem at all, anytime. Barry Wall says, what do you think of a derogatory term? Not giving us game one. Hey Barry, keep it above the, what are you at there, Barry? Anyway, sorry, I know what you're at. I'll come back to it. But you see all those, what happens is that YouTube cops you saying those sort of things. It just hides everything. YouTube's got some serious stuff going on. Ocean Froggy says, bring back knobs, touchscreen. There is a t-shirt, believe it or not, in my Teespring that I've written bring back knobs on. Big words. Knobs is a particularly big word. Anyway, touchscreen to move air vents and bring rear mirrors, put me right off the Model 3 with a Spartan dashboard, ergonomically designed, enslaved to the altar of large touchscreen UI. That's not even large. The Model 3's touchscreen isn't as big as the Model S touchscreen, which is a giant joke. I do prefer by far the air controls being a physical thing that I can touch, because the haptic feedback or feedback you get from glass just isn't there, so you're never quite sure whether you're pressing the right button or not, which means you have to look to press, and if you have to look, you crash. You just run up the arse of the thing in front of you, so that's not right. The best thing to do is to have them on physical knobs to make it easy. An unpronounceable word happens when they have electric buses and even electric delivery trucks in Frankfurt. I'll be there on Wednesday. You should check it out when you're over there. I will. They even have opened an electric lane on the Autobahn. I think Ireland, at the very least, should try to copy their public transport system. Public transport is most important. We have dinosaurs running our public transport system. We have Erin Road, Irish Rail, whatever you want to call them, that has to make a profit. That's the way they work. They have to be in profit. They have to go and submit their profits every time to the greater good, instead of actually trying to run an efficient system that's affordable. Have you seen the price of train tickets? Oh my God, even with the Leap card thing, it's absolutely astronomical. The Lewis has gone up, buses have gone up, the green buses have even gone up. Everything's going up, guys. All this stuff is happening around the edge of you, and you're all, like good, dutiful people, saying it's all okay. We'll just elect Fine Gael again, and when they're finished, we'll elect Fine Gael again. No, without looking for anyone different. Without encouraging people to try and take office and try and get on with things. We continue to make sure the independents have no voice. No, we'll elect the independents, but they can't say anything. What are they going to do? Anyway, gonads. 1259. That is a word that's in the dictionary, so I'll read that one out. Hand the car back and don't be surprised when you get stiffed for imaginary scuff and dent repairs, not to mention tires. That is true. That can happen. Now, when you're handing the car back to the dealership, you do all of your due diligence there and then with the dealership. If they're not prepared to do due diligence with you there and then you leave with your car and you come back when they can. You do not leave the inspection room until they can show you everything. You take all the photographs, protect yourselves, take your photographs, take your videos, take everything, do the inspection with them. Be on the safe side. They are going to do their best to get out of financial arrangements. That's why I'm not a fan of PCPs. Because most people are getting into PCPs without really understanding what it's all about. And what happens when things go wrong. Because the dealer will tell you what everyone to hear that sells the car. So 3 years. Yeah, be alright. Just drop back the keys. Throw them on the desk there. Don't need to do anything. Be fine. Just write it all off until the bill comes and suddenly it's hanging over your head forever. Anyway, you need to check out your like I said, do your due diligence. Check everything out. Make sure it's all right and do it. Jared Hewitt, a man I've met on a couple of occasions, a lovely shop. Hi Bob, hope all is well. It is. Know any decent car storage places or car storage clubs within 30 minutes of Dublin? Myself and a few friends are looking to store and access 15 to 20 cars. Tell you might be able to help you. Maybe. Look up a name of a guy called Leo Nulty. He is He's a marketing fella. He does a lot of marketing events and things. He's very into the car industry. If anyone's going to know where you can store 15 to 20 cars, he's probably going to be the one. You can just Google him. He's on Facebook and Twitter. And Leo Nulty. He does motorsport.ie is his website. Many fingers, many pies, but he's a nice guy and he knows his stuff. The other people you contact is Mondello Park themselves. They'd be worth a shot as well. They do store some cars. Or offline, give me a buzz and I'll put you in contact with a fella that I know stores cars already. But I can't read out his name because it wouldn't be good. But I'll put you in touch with the right man, or I'll get a fella to phone you, one or the other. Jimmy Ormley says, thanks Bob, doing a great job. Thanks very much. No problem. I like the new Zoe. Nice little car. Not sure about the price, like all EVs though. EVs are overpriced. They're too expensive. They always have been. People still buy them in droves because they're getting them on PCPs because they look more reasonable at 25 grand or whatever it is. But that's like 10 grand discount taken off them. 8 to 10 grand, 7 grand, 8 grand, whatever it is, taken off them. So they look more reasonable, but they're not actually that more reasonable. So I'm answering questions from 3:19. So I'm still like a half an hour behind you. My God, on a wild stuff. So if you answer a question, I haven't answered your question, I just haven't caught up on it yet. There's just so many of them. The Zoe has generally always been the cheapest viable EV. It's good to see them improve the basic car bits of it. Yeah, it's good. Right now, today, 39% of the national grid is renewable generators, only 2% coal. Right. You should follow this YouTuber Plug Life TV. He's very clever, expert in battery tech. I'm not a fan of following. Same as your man, the guy from Norway. I find I like I like someone who has broad experience. So I like someone who's like myself, who's come through a love of cars, of petrol and diesel and performance, and then they're seeing what this electric thing brings to the game. They know the game, which is the other part as well. Generally, most of the guys who are reviewing electric cars are people who are looking for profit in it. And I know another couple like Vicky Parrott and stuff who started in the UK, started an electric car channel specifically to try and find some work. That's it, like not to change the conversation, not to use their knowledge, but to find a way to, because they know that the electric car revolution has happened. I was advised 12 months ago to start an electric car channel as well, a dedicated one. But like the thoughts of trying to grow another channel from scratch when I have this one up to this is just ridiculous. So I'm more of a fan of a broad spectrum review, someone who's willing to go out on a limb and say that's no good, that's good, whatever it is, so there's a number of those channels out there. So I like the idea of following someone who's an expert in battery tech, but they're an expert in battery tech because they like it, and which means they're biased. I don't like it. I don't care. I don't really like petrol engines or diesel engines. I don't really like one or the other. I like it because it does what it's supposed to do, what it excites me, or it's an interesting thing, or it's a different tech. That's what excites me more, rather than just being biased towards liking it or not liking it. Which is why I'm kind of renowned for shooting from the hip, and a lot of car companies are crapping themselves at this stage to try and figure out what's going on. Anyway, because the channel is suddenly massive and people are talking about it, and people are in the streets talking about it, people are asking questions and going, what did Bob Flavin say about that car? So that's happening, and that's good because that means you're questioning what the car companies are telling you instead of listening to the marketing speak like a lot of websites or other YouTube channel put out. They take the PR press release, they rewrite that becomes their thing instead of their own opinion. Question who's behind that opinion. Like that article today in the journal called "The Perks, the Costs, and the End of Free Charging. Here's what you need to know about switching to an electric car." That sounds very unbiased. When you go to the end of the column, once you've read through the entire thing, which is quite a lengthy thing, it's written by Christina Finn, who is one of the authors of this. It doesn't say what her relationship is or where she got the information from or how she assembled it. It just looks like an article written by a non-expert about the electric car industry without really knowing the industry behind the electric cars. Or without really knowing the industry behind the ICE engine either. It just looks like information coming at you. Some of it's misguided. Very badly. So the conversation is very badly wrong. A bit like Prime Time doing an electric car thing, made a show of the whole thing. It was dreadful. Anyway, I don't know, disgrace. I don't know how it got TV. James Ledden says, what do you think about the new electric Mini? Apparently it's have less than 200 miles, which is pointless. If it's only going to, and I know one of the engineers, an Irish guy, I met him, he's a lovely chap, but if it can only do 200 miles, you're not changing the conversation with electric cars there. You're not adding to the system. You're just bogging it up. You're just giving it to people who can't do high mileage because you're trying to afford something. Now, the reason they're going 200 miles is because they want to sell another Mini in 5 years' time, because that would be able to do 600 miles. So, you know what I mean? So they're drip feeding. It's like Apple putting out iPhone 6, iPhone 6S, iPhone 7, iPhone 7S, iPhone 8. They know some people won't buy into the iPhone when it comes out first, so they bring out an S model of it. So they know other people will only buy the tablet version, the bigger ones or whatever. It's that drip feeding that keeps you buying things all the time. That's what car companies are at. How many people drive 200 miles in one go? Though not many. No one. But the point is, if you drive, how many times a week do you charge the car? It's not about how much you drive in one go. Steve O.C., thank you very much. Great for the unbiased content. He donated money by Super Chat. I didn't even see that, Steve. I'm sorry. I should have noticed that earlier. Hold on. I'm moving up along because it's jumped forward again in that lonely way that it does. Anybody hear that Bill Cullen Premier Cars out of business? No cars on their website. Cars Island is not listed as SsangYong dealer. Bill Cullen Cars is gone. Yes, it does still exist on the Nace Road. It still has his signage out the front. There is a car company trading out from it, but it's not Bill Cullen Cars. Bill Cullen, I think, is sick at the moment. Unconfirmed. I think he's a little bit ill at the moment, so he'd be gone out of business in that respect. So would have been incredibly well respected and a bull in the market years ago. Bought out the Renault group, owned nearly everything, was murdered by Renault to get him out of the system because he controlled the whole thing. He signed an agreement. He was smart enough to sign an agreement at the time, and he was killed out of it. So, but at the same time, he was very well respected many years ago. He became a laughingstock over the years because he became literally a parody of himself over time. But he was still a guy I've met a couple of times. Really nice man to talk to. So is his wife. They're beautiful, lovely people, very nice people. But in business, he was outmaneuvered and pushed out, more or less. But yes, I believe he's sick now, and I know Bill Cullen Cars, which was on the Nace Road for a while. He was involved in Meridian Cars as well for a while, which down in Carlow. I don't know what happened to them. So there's a lot going on. There was a lot happening. It is now 4 p.m, of course, but we're not going to stop because we still have so many questions to go. So I'm going to fly through some of the questions here so we can get through the rest of them. Tesla are looking into supercapacitors and a way to charge their cars. But everybody's looking at supercapacitors. Everyone's looking at every possible means. That's why I'm saying relax on buying electric cars at the moment. James Ledden, it's not about how many people drive 200 miles in one go. I think 300 is a great number. 300 miles is good. 400 miles is better. The thing is how often you have to charge. It's not about having to charge every single time that you go out. If you're doing 100 miles, you might charge every time. 200 miles, you don't have to charge 3 times a week, 4 times a week. But at 600, 500 miles, 600 miles, you're only charging once a week. That's great. That's brilliant. That takes the pressure off the grid as well. You're only charging once a week. You're only plugging in your car at home once a week. That means the grid is not under pressure the whole time and everyone's not charging every single night. That's the whole point here. I wouldn't buy any electric car unless it was a Tesla. No one has battery technology good enough to compete. The e-tron is a joke. I wouldn't buy any electric cars as a Tesla. Tesla aren't the market leaders in these things. Just got a good head start. But all the batteries are basically the same. The good thing that Elon Musk did was he became a battery manufacturer. That was a smart thing. Now he's going to become a battery recycler, I'd say. The Mini has under 200 mate. If the Mini is meant for city and most people living in apartments in cities don't work. Look, if you want to live in a city, will you just look at how the transport system works in the city now instead of putting a car in it? Buy an electric bicycle. That's what you do. Right? Don't buy a car. The e-tron battery is very much comparable to Tesla, even an argument their cooling system is better. The issue is efficiency, the rest of the e-tron, because it's a bloody SUV, it's a big car, like that's a big lump for you to move around, and it feels substantial on the road. Very quiet, very efficient, just I'm not happy with the mileage. I think the mileage is going to take a jump. Audi, the managing director of Audi, and I've met him a number of times, confirmed to me that there was going to be a 600 kilometer range battery. That was 2 years ago. I want my 600 kilometers Audi. I want it. Not 300, 600. Charging stations are bringing up everywhere at fuel stations on the high street retail centres. Not being able to charge at home won't be that big a problem until they start charging you to charge your car at those stations. Think about that for a second. You're going into your Tesco's there and you pull up and you plug in, you bip your card, and that goes onto your electric bill at home. Then you'll stop charging in the public zone. My local Benz dealer has a back compound with at least 60 filthy second-hand Benz cars, I suspect handed back from PCP dealer cars. Perhaps held back so not to flood the market much further. No idea. Can't comment. I don't know how many cars were held back for Mercedes. Mercedes sell a fair number of cars and don't tend to sell a lot. Like they are sold retail. They don't tend to pre-reg a lot of cars, so I don't know why they'd have a pile of cars sitting in a yard. Andrew Daly says, always good, honest advice, Bob. Thanks very much, Andrew. I always try, because I don't think, none of this is rehearsed, and it is actually live. I literally sit here at a table answering questions off the top of my head without even so much of a beat. And I try not to leave big long spaces because it's like a radio show, so you can just listen to this and not actually see the comments or anything else. So I end up being streamed and get messages after the show from people in buses and on trains and people who are listening by podcasts and things as well. So it happens a lot. There has been some e-tron problems and recalls. That's just teething issues, they say. But it's a very expensive teething issue, I would say. I was behind a transit van run on chippy oil. Smelled good as it made me want fish and chips. I remember that. Yeah, I remember lots of cars back once upon a time suddenly started to stink of chip fat. You're supposed to strain it out a bit. Here we go. See, people are now. You see, we mentioned Hindenburg earlier on in the course of the events, and now everyone's gone off and researched the Hindenburg. So, Yippee says the Hindenburg was powered by 4 reversible 890 kilowatt, 1,190 horsepower Daimler-Benz diesel engines, which gave the airship a maximum speed of 135 kilometers per hour or 84 miles per hour. That's amazing. They're diesel engines that can fly. That's a good idea. That's pretty efficient. Anyway, that's really good. If you could get a lot more people onto a blimp, why don't we have blimps? What's wrong with them? I know they're slow, but Paul Hickey says, hi Bob, good write up on the Honda in the Star newspaper during the week. Thanks very much, Paul. I'm glad you read that. That's myself and John Mitchell who run that. Dave Humphries in there. There's the motorbike bits of it, but John Mitchell is the editor, and I do submit some of the stuff to there. So from time to time I appear in the Star. I might have in the Sunday World sometimes as well. Same company. Don't tell them I said that. But used to love Hondas during the 90s. They pity they lost their way here in Europe now. The fast car NSX, phenomenal machine. God almighty, what a machine. Forget about forget about everything else. Just an amazing piece of kit, but really expensive. What would you like a citation for? Oh no, I got them all lined up. I know what that means. Citation for what? I was flying through loads of people are all talking to one another. Is deadly. Breaking news: Bill Cullen's company Warrior Actions Limited, trading as Bill Cullen's Premier Cars, wound up as of the 15th of this month. We know that, Barry. Kept quiet. Sure, it's not a public thing. Lots of companies wind up every month. You look through the company's actions list, you find a pile of them to come and go. They just come and go out of the thing. Bill hasn't been well in a long time, so that's what happened there as well. RAV4 hybrid. There's going to be a video soon next month. Myself and Sinead McCann are going to do RAV4 versus Honda CR-V. Both car companies have been talking to one another because we're making two videos. I said it to Toyota the other day, and there's been multiple phone calls back and forward between the two car companies going, what do you think is in your car? What options are on your car? Make sure I have the same gas. I love it. We'll see who the winner of that one is, though, right? Because that's going to be a winner. You know, myself and Sinead, we tend to make videos where it's just absolutely straight up the line. One of us says what we think, and the other one says what we think, and then we end up arguing over something. It'll be fun. That'll be next month. That'll be first week next month. I think we're going to be filming that somewhere in Wicklow. VW Fan says a lot of car companies will follow Toyota down the hybrid route. The CVT whining from the engines let down by under the gearbox suit these engines. The problem with CVT, constant variable transmission is what that means. It means there isn't actually gears. So there's not like 6 gears or 5 gears. It can vary the transmission as much as they want. Have hundreds of gears if it wants. It's the way it operates. It's a funny system. But it does make a very strange, so the revs go all the way to like 6,000 when you floor it and just stay there. So they don't ever drop off. It's not like a normal gearbox. And that's what you get as the CVT gearbox whine. Now, I didn't hear that at all in the current Camry. So I had it a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely adore the car. Great car, and I had no problem with CVT whine in it whatsoever. But the older Prius and things, yeah, they were noisy, right? Brian Cullen says, Bob, they're not getting rid of petrol and diesel cars in 10 years. They are banning the sales of new ones. They'll be around for a long time after that. No, read the detail. They want to replace 1 million cars on the road in Ireland by 2030. That means getting rid of everything that is being sold between now and then, plus a load more cars that are out there. The current fleet market of Ireland is about 1 million cars. There's about 1 million cars on the road in Ireland. For 4.5 million people, that's actually not bad. But that is falling. So car ownership is falling anyway. See what happens. Raymond Gray says, Bob, I watched a video of petrol diesel cars being converted electric in the USA. Costs a bloody fortune, Raymond. It can be done, 100%. It's been done here as well. I'm meant to be driving a car with fully charged soon. Johnny Smith's coming over. Anyway, we're meant to be doing something together. That may or may not happen. We'll have to see. But that may or may not happen. But we are still looking at electric cars that are being, or petrol cars have been transferred over to electric, like a DeLorean has been done here in Ireland, and a Porsche or a Beetle or something has been done as well. So it is possible, but it's just very expensive. That would be the problem with that. Is it's not much. It's not really useful either. Unless the engine was shite in the first place, then it would be. Peter Hackett says, how many Irish people do you reckon have reserved a Model 3? Can't remember, there is actually a number there. No, that's sales. No, I can't remember. I can't think of how many reserves have been done. Wouldn't be that many. Being honest with you, an expensive car. It'll look like a big number in comparison to sales, but there's just people who are waiting for that to happen. That is just hopped off over there like an absolute lunatic. Thanks very much, YouTubey. What are you doing? Oh no, hold on a second. Hold on. Now, sorry. Back now. Someone moving a mouse somewhere else that's connected by wire to my laptop. So they're actually moving the mouse on my screen so I can see what's going on. Where were we? Kept that quiet. Yeah, I got that one already in the way down. So we're still going. We're still here. Russ Carter are all having conversations. How many Irish people do you reckon there's Model 3? That's the one. Bob, will you be doing a review of the Peugeot E208 when that comes out? Yep. As soon as they put us on the international trip of that, I'm sure that'll be coming up at some point in the near future. It needs to be, but they're going to show it at a show for us. I don't think Peugeot are actually ready for it. I'm not too sure it's actually out. Jason Cave says, if diesel is so bad, why is the new Audi SQ8 and S4 a TDI diesel engine with 2 or 3 turbos? Are Audi not bothered? They're not really, because old diesels are bad. New diesels are good. So an EU6 diesel, you stand behind, you can't smell it even running. When it's ticking over, there's not a smell, nothing. You can smell nothing out of the back of it. They're so clean and efficient these days. But they've got a bad name. That's the problem right now, is diesel's got a bad thing. So people don't want to talk about it anymore. But it's possible that diesel could actually be very, very clean when it wants to be. An Independent is our monster for transport. Monster for transport. I know, but sure he knows nothing about transport. You talking about Shane Ross? Yeah, right. Transport. He knows that. He's a yes man for truck industry. Have you ever had a car company refuse to give you a car for review, Bob? You see, there comes a point where I think you get too big for a car company to refuse you. Yeah, no, they haven't refused, but there's been cars that are not offered to me. For instance, I haven't been offered a Renault Megane RS. I do get Renaults, but they tend to treat the Renault Megane RS as some sort of a bonus thing, like you're good enough to be reviewing that car. So, but that doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm driving every sort of performance car, R8s and anything I want after that, so I'm not really pushed by it. But nobody's ever really refused to go like, I'm not giving you any more cars. Oh no, that's not happening. You're not good enough, because the channel is big and because there is a lot of comments under each video, so the interaction's big. Like, I've seen Twitter accounts recently where guys with like 20, 30, 40,000 followers, and they follow me, and they've nothing at all to do with me, and look at them and go, I'm not following you back, and then they unfollow you after a bit. And you look at any of their comments, they put up a tweet and there's no interaction on that tweet. It's all fake, lads. Numbers are fake, but comments are not. So you look at my videos and you'll see hundreds of comments underneath. And that's the difference. People like to get involved in the conversation of what I talk about. Connor Nugent says, Plugged Live TV is an electrochemist, did a good video on why batteries charge when cold and the benefits and drawbacks of different chemistries. There's actually another channel, an Irish channel called Real Engineering, I think. It's an Irish channel. He did a really good video on electric cars and hydrogen cars and a few other things, but it was pretty good. Meridian Motors and Carlo gone too. Yeah, they went out of business too, but I think they went out of business a while before Bill Cullen started Dublin Nace Road. Are you ending the phase of stream? Hello from Greece once again. Sorry I wasn't here. No, I'm still here because there's still so many bleeding questions to answer. It's just such a busy day. There's a huge amount of people on the channel. So I'll keep going from there a little bit. Hi Bob, I see your comment on Twitter. RE revenue replacement for governor when people are in EV or no tax on fuel or VRT. My guess is the reduction in revenue would be offset by huge fines the government would get for not meeting emissions targets. I really enjoy your YouTube videos. Thanks, Mark. You're very kind, Mark O'Reilly. Yes, they'll have to replace the price that is lost to the exchequer from petrol and diesel sales by doing it something else. They can't do it by just electricity. You can't just put electricity prices up. But electricity prices only go one way. Have a look at the electricity regulation system or the energy regulation system. All that ever happens is it just go up every year. They never go down. They never go down. Whatever. Someone find me. They never go down. Barry Watts says Sinead's a lovely girl. She is, yes. We meet quite regularly and have a bit of a laugh together. We're driving the other day, actually, together in a Kia. Driving around, messing, like we usually do for pictures and things. We're like two kids when we get together, to be honest with you. Andy Tierney, she's not younger than I am, but she's still like two kids all the same. Andy Tierney says they open a Hertz car sales in Dun Laoghaire now, and that would be the start of rental car companies selling cars. Yeah, they always did, but just now they're putting a face to it. They've always kind of sold cars once in a while. Multiple companies coming into Ireland right now selling cars, multiple ones. The industry's in a very bad position, very poor position. Some of it has to do with regulation, some of it has to do with VRT. There's going to be a backlash against the imports next year. I guarantee that's coming. So much talk of car cup has been basically put out of business by the imports into the country. It's hardly even funny. The amount of jobs are being lost by imports cars. Anyway, Alex says, any tips for driving assessment this week? I've never driven a van before. You're getting a driving assessment and you've never driven a van before? What's that mean? How can you be assessed on something you've never done? That's not possible. You need some training, my boy. You need some trip. If you're going to be driving a van, look at your mirrors a lot. That's really it. Generally, people fail on two things in the car world when they're doing a test of any kind. One is progression. So just driving on, like, get on with it. And the other one is observation. So not observing around you, not looking in mirrors, rearview mirrors and side mirrors and looking up and down the road. Observation. So it happens a lot. Barry Watts says 42 years. In fact, I don't know what that means. They are putting a push on commercial lease side. Yep. MC Torna says, if we're going to be replacing all the ICE cars with electric in 10 years, what effect is this going to have on the sales of ICE cars over the next 5 years? It'll merge them. What happens to the ICE cars on sale today? Nothing's going to happen. I don't think this is going to work. The 10-year thing is going to be missed by a number of years. And the reason I say that, this action plan is something they can present to Europe and go, this is our aspirational plan. We really want to get this into position. That's what they're after, is this idea that they can forward sell stuff. They just pay the fines and leave it at that. Because Currently, electric cars make up about 7% of the market sales. It used to be 3% last year. It's doubled. But it's doubled because people are talking about it. People are asking about it. People have money to change. I was in South Dublin yesterday, a very wealthy area. You know what? I've seen one electric car in that whole area while I was there. Very wealthy. They can easily afford to change over electric cars. And they're just not bothered. They're just holding on to cars till they fall asunder. And that's it. So it's definitely happening. Right, we're at 4:18. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think it might be the longest Sunday service ever, and it was absolutely brilliant to have you along. If you can support the channel in some way, please look at the links down below. There's a number of ways you can do that on there, from buying a t-shirt to going off and buying something on Amazon to just plain cash money. That also speaks just as well. If you want to do it that way, it's just as nice. Anything you can do, but at the very, very least, hit the subscribe button and keep subscribed and keep updating on the channel, and comment and like and subscribe. That's all free. It costs you nothing but a couple of moments of your time. I'm delighted that you came along today. Hopefully you will join me again next Sunday, and if you go to my Instagram, you'll see me all week as well, Instagramming the fast car that I'm driving. Right, the car I'm driving tomorrow, car I'm going to have tomorrow. It'd be brilliant to have you there. So head over there and do that if you want to. But whatever happens, look after yourselves. Definitely look after yourselves and take care of one another. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.